Chris, welcome to the show, man. I'm really excited to sit down with you. We met briefly at the tactical games, and I got a little bit of your story, and I knew I had to have you on and to get the rest of it because you not recently got out of the military, but pretty recent, and you've gone through a lot, and I wanna sit down and I want to share your story. So, Chris, welcome to the Wild Chaos Show. Let's just start with a little bit of who you are and where you're from, and we're just gonna dig in from there.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Bam. I appreciate being over here on this podcast.
Yeah.
And really, my story begins out in the middle of the South Pacific.
Explain
right?
this.
Oh well, everybody loves Jason Momoa. People
Okay.
love Dwayne Johnson. I mean, who wouldn't, right? They're the perfect islander, right?
Right.
If you look at it. For me, though, the South Pacific and even the Pacific in itself is just gorgeous overall. It's actually probably my favorite place whenever I was in the active duty military to just be assigned to.
Oh, I can imagine.
But with the Marshall Islands, I was born in a place called Majuro, right? And I spent my time there for 3 years, and then my father was an American contractor from Southside Chicago.
Contracting what?
Just carpentry.
Okay.
Yeah, and he ended up marrying my mother.
How did they meet?
Honestly, I don't know, man. Because he was maybe in his late 50s, and my mom was probably like early 20s.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And he had aside from just meeting my mom, and he didn't really know us kids. Obviously, he knew that she had kids, and they brought us to the States, and we ended up landing in Jay, Oklahoma.
So you went from tropical life to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That's a culture shock.
That is a massive culture shock, but being 3 years old, everything's a
know much.
playground,
Yeah.
right? What I remember, right, just jumping on hayfields, and we were super poor. Even though he was a contractor working overseas, there was a part of him that just enjoyed the rural areas, but he just didn't come from a lot, right? And during that time frame, really, like till I was 5, I mean, where I grew up in that farm was just awesome. Like I could just go around through every single field,
Just free,
finding tadpoles, just jumping in the water wherever I could.
Yeah.
So
that's where. So once 5 years old, you mentioned that. What's significant about from 3 to 5?
really, it was, being able to have freedom in that way. I'm not necessarily stuck on the islands, right? I didn't have that background like my older brother and sister. But for me, I was able to be reintroduced to a different culture, right? The American culture. And from there, I kind of fit in because I was in a Native American community.
Okay.
And so obviously they're like, oh yeah, you're somewhat brown.
Yeah.
And
you're not the white devil. So.
Yeah, but it was just interesting because if you were to look at it objectively, you see, my father being, he was a Korean War vet. And
How was that?
It was tough.
So he's significantly older than your mom.
Yes.
That dude's seen some shit.
Yeah.
How was that?
He was gentle in a way, right? He was accepting, and obviously married my mom for a reason because he loved her. But when it came down to discipline, I was raised way differently than any other kid in my I would say block, but really we're living in a farming town, and I saw kids just enjoying that interaction. Whereas, hey, work. You have chores. These are the things that make you, who you want to be in your life. Having that discipline early.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw as a kid.
Okay. So how was school out there? There's probably got to be what was the population of where you were living?
Jay was about 5,000 at the time.
Okay.
But like I said, we lived in the countryside, and we didn't stay there too long just because, my parents ended up getting a divorce.
At what
when
age?
I was 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And so a lot of that was a blur. The school was great. I remember some of the interactions that I had with the students there, but it wasn't necessarily tough, right?
For sure.
Tough moves on whenever I moved further into the Midwest.
Napkin. So so you left Oklahoma, and where did you go after that?
I ended up going to Northwest Arkansas for a couple of months.
Arkansas.
Yeah, just because during the divorce, it was a process in itself to figure out who was going to have the kids.
Okay.
So
You did a lot of jumping around, or what?
I did.
How was that?
It was terrible.
For how long were you stationed?
Stationed or?
Sorry, not stationed. How long? I mean, so how long would you be in these areas? Like you jump around a lot. So what was your longest stint as a kid? I mean, it's got to be pretty rough going up through high school. Were you traveling a lot? Or not traveling, but were you moving a lot still?
I was.
That's got to be rough.
Yeah, I ended up finally getting to, Illinois, and there, I lived there the longest. It was about 7 years.
Okay.
And after the divorce got settled, I ended up living with Al, my father. And
why did you go with the dad instead of your mom?
More drug. She was into drugs and really just more of a party lifestyle.
Is that why they got divorced?
Yeah, a lot of the issues that I was dealing with as a 5-year-old, I was exposed to a lot. I was exposed to things that, I hope that would never happen for kids that age, right? Mm-hmm. And that's real. That's real around the world, right? And I had probably just a small, taste of what others deal with, in the world, outside of America, right? Or maybe within the States.
When did your mom start partying?
I mean,
always?
Probably whenever she met my father, being somebody in her 20s into where, you meet this American contractor, I got a great deal for you, you come to America, you have kids, we're going to provide them a future. That's what I see now, right? And it's not so much, I mean, it's easy to look back at it and be like, okay, that was the problem and so forth, but.
Was he a partier too, or was that a reason that they got divorced?
No. I mean, this is a very disciplined man, and it was a weird dynamic. Okay. Now that I look back at it,
for sure.
And he's passed away, right? And and we could talk about that later.
But, so at what age did you go and live with him? When was the divorce final?
I was 7 years old.
No shit.
Yeah.
So you chose, or did he win custody?
I remember distinctly being at a caretaker, right? Because I didn't live with my mother. We were living it's called the Baha'i faith, right? And if you're not familiar with it, that is a religion out there, right?
Okay.
That's especially within the South Pacific in the areas that I lived in. We were arranged with the church, and I was living with some other old lady there, and I lived with her for most of the summers. Yeah, and it was never an interaction with my mother. Right, the interaction was when I saw her. I was like, "Hey, a couple hours, and then I'm gonna go hang out and leave." And that sucks to say that, but that was the reality. Right? That was the reality, and I just needed something.
Well, you don't know how to process that as
Absolutely.
a kid as well. Damn, man. So you were dealing with that. You have a very old stepdad that's a Korean War vet, and you're living with an old lady during the summer.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild out the gate.
Yeah.
Well, how did that? I mean, so where were your siblings? You said you have a brother and a sister.
Yeah, there's actually 12 of us total.
What the fuck? Your mom? You have 12 siblings?
Oh, they're all half. Yeah, we can open this worm, can of worms if you want. Man.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
Are you still in contact with a lot of them, or once the divorces go, do you everybody just goes to their own family side?
I'm trying to be more engaging, because when I joined the military, I shut everything off.
For sure.
And that's how I dealt with life, right? It's kind of like that escapism a little bit, and I just didn't know how to define family. So to answer your question, I do. I will contact a couple of brothers and sisters here and there, and I want that relationship. I do.
For sure. I can see that. So once you moved in with your dad, you call him dad or stepdad?
He's my dad.
Yeah, Hunter. Okay. Yeah. I'm one of those people. Like if you're taking on somebody, that's your child. I don't believe in the step thing unless there's co-parenting. Anyways, so once you moved in with him, did he move around a lot still? I mean, were you on that kind of path through high school? I mean, constantly just jumping around?
He didn't really move around. It was just because of, the divorce. So we were actually pretty stable once we got to Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what age was that again?
I was maybe I was turning 9. I was turning 9 that summer, and then we got into Illinois. We moved in.
And how was Illinois?
It's the best.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I had friends.
Yeah.
You know, I finally had a an actual friendship, a community, a group
Okay.
of people that, if you were to look at Versailles, Illinois, it's nothing.
What is it? I mean, how
475 people live in this. It's a village of Versailles is what we call it.
the village of Versailles?
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. That's probably why, huh?
Yeah.
So growing up I grew up in a village and in New York, but like you can't get away with shit there.
Yeah.
So was it pretty? I mean, how were you as a kid?
I mean, I was just that's a tough question. You know, I always liked to have fun. I was adventurous.
Okay.
You know,
Mischief adventures? Or
absolutely mischief.
Okay.
So
Well, the only reason I ask is because obviously, if you're going through some of the situations that, obviously, by that age, like you can go one of two ways.
yes,
And so, which path did you take?
I wanted to have fun. I wanted friendship. I wanted
Okay.
community. And this is weird to even think about now now I'm 34 and looking back at my childhood, because there were so many forks in my road. I could have easily went down just doing drugs, drinking excessively. Did I entertain that as a kid?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But there was a part of me that just wanted something different. That just wasn't always going to be what the norm was.
Okay. Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
That probably saved your ass a lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had joined a lot of youth groups just to get out of my house.
Oh, why? I mean, if you went with your dad, I mean, was it just was he around a lot, or was it kind of just you and a bunch of siblings, or you just wanted your own space and meet new people?
It was that. I wanted my own space. I wanted to be able to. Well, again, if you look at community and friendships, a lot of my friends, we went to church, right? Because
Got
it's
it.
a small farming town, and
Yeah.
and that's how kids got together on a Wednesday, and my father was a very religious man,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the divorce and the things that he's done, but he was very big on every Sunday, we're going to be there and we're going to praise God.
Yeah. I mean, that's good though.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, in a small community like that, you know everybody in
Yeah.
church, and I'm
Oh,
sure the
yeah.
whole church is damn near there.
Yep.
Yeah, been there. I know those communities. So, at what age did you decide that the military was your route? I mean, you're in high school now. What was high school like for you?
High school was, man, it was an adventure in itself, just because I went to 3 different high schools as a junior.
Really, as a junior?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, as I said, I snuck out of the house a lot,
Okay.
and I wanted to be around my friends.
Or
There was no part of me that wanted to be contained. Like, I wanted adventure, and it's not like I'm going out there to do these, partying to just get drunk and,
Yeah.
and do drugs. It's like I wanted friendship.
But your dad doesn't understand that.
No, I mean he's very, very set on his ways. He's he was a Korean War vet. That's all I can.
Yeah.
If anyone can probably understand that, I mean, I guess it would be individuals that had that background, right?
Yeah.
So
So you're gone a lot. Did he push you to join the military, or was that something that you kind of decided? Like, what was the deciding factor besides college or working or military? What made you go that path?
it was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Was it him like, hey, the military might be a good thing, or hey, you're joining the military and getting out of here?
No, and it comes along with a story, right? And where I came to that crossroad, and I was a terrible student. I couldn't. I mean, I was of 25 kids, I was 25.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how great of a
Yeah.
student I was. But the last school I went to, it was because of those 3 schools in my junior year. I remember getting off the Greyhound bus, and my uncle, who was a Vietnam vet,
Oh, God.
living in Colorado, and he's a hunter. He is a man of men. Like, he is. I wish I could have talked to him more.
Okay.
I
We all
wish
have
I
that.
could have, had more conversations. But I was 16 whenever I got to his house, and
So they shipped you to hit your uncle to go to school your junior year?
yeah, he's like, my dad said I cannot deal with all the issues that you're having. You could either go to a home, or you're going to find yourself a place to live.
Really?
Those are your 2 options.
And your uncle was it, huh?
Yeah. Well,
And
my
he-
aunt and uncle.
He put you on a Greyhound and shipped your ass out, huh?
Well, Al drove me
Oh, okay.
to Colorado, but my uncle, whenever he was like, "Yeah, you're doing nothing for yourself, kid. Look at yourself. You're 16 years old. You're going to school. you need to be doing something more.
As a junior.
Yeah, as a junior in high school.
So he pushed you to start. I mean, what was the more?
I get on that Greyhound bus station at 16 years old in Denver, and I was by myself. I had like a can of tobacco, and and $20 in my pocket. And, you know, my Uncle Bruce, he's like, hey, kid, you're on your own. You got to figure this out.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm taking the bus from Denver, Colorado, down to Oklahoma City, and then to Bentonville, Arkansas, where my mom was.
So you're going back to your mom?
Yeah. Yeah.
And were you still in pretty good relationship with your mom, or was this kind of like hey, you're my last resort, I have to come back to you?
Yeah, you're my last resort.
How was that?
It was tough.
Was she still on the same path that she was on? Or was she clean up by this point? Oh, really?
Yeah. And
so as a 16-year-old, you're able to process things a lot different. How was that moving into your mom, and then obviously she's still living that party life?
It was tough.
Yeah.
Throughout the bus ride, there was a very significant event where I literally had $10 in my pocket after a couple stops on our way to Amarillo, Texas. And I'm fearing or dreading the fact that I have to go to my mother. And I don't know how I'm going to make this next leg of the journey. I just know I just need to eat some food right now. And I get approached by this older gentleman, and he's like, hey, man, I need to eat. And I'm like,
so do I.
Yeah, so do I. I only got $10. You know, I'm 16 years old, looking at this older gentleman, and he's like, can you help me out, kid? Like, I'll pay you back. I was like, sure. So I gave him $5, and we're out there standing in the line at McDonald's. We order our food, and we eat, and I'm like, I got no money until I get to Bentonville. And I was like, if you don't believe in any type of religion, I'm going to tell you, I was like, okay, if I can get through this and make it there, thank goodness, right?
So how far were, I mean,
that was about a 5-hour drive, I want to say.
Still,
and yeah, don't look me up on that, but it just, that next leg was enough to where I was like, man, I got to savor this, this double cheeseburger from McDonald's.
We could eat half now and wait till tonight to eat.
Yeah. And we stopped at Oklahoma City. I want to say it was Oklahoma City, and that guy came back to me, and his mom was there, and his mom gave me a hug and said, thank you for helping my son.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get your $5 back?
I got $20.
It was a lesson, huh?
Oh. And why I say that is because whenever I was like in this dread of this moment of getting out there to Bentonville, Arkansas, and I was like, well, even at 16, I think there's a thing called, forgiving somebody or being able to just look outside of what is happening until it happens again, and when does it stop? I don't know. But that wasn't my decision. I just had to follow through.
Yeah. So once you get to your mom's house, how was that? Was she pretty open and welcoming, or was it you more of a burden?
It was opening.
Okay, that's good, because I could see it, like, now all of a sudden she has a 16-year-old to take care of.
Yeah. She was very opening. However, she's now with my my half-brothers. I have two. They were just kids, man. They were 7 and 5, Hunter and Zach, and I'm coming back to a trailer, and I'm talking about it was bad, man. Like, it was in a very terrible state.
Like the trailer itself?
Yeah.
How so?
And you got food and trash, just everywhere. I know my mom was trying to clean it, and just looking at that and where I was coming from, I was very privileged. And then to come here and I'm living in a trailer and watching my 2 younger brothers live in this condition, it was eye-opening.
Did you have like an aha moment where you were like, man, I fucked up?
Oh, yeah. 100% I did. Yeah.
You couldn't call your dad and be like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, in my head, I'm like, yeah, this is messed up. Like, this is not where I want to be.
How was school down there?
Honestly, it was great.
Really?
I thrived in school. I thrived in community and things where, you just get to interact with other people.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I don't have to deal with my life.
Okay.
So it was easy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you thrived for that?
Yeah.
So how long were you at your mom's house until you joined?
No. I stayed there for a quarter of the semester.
Really? So it was a short time?
Very short time.
Where'd you go after that?
I ended up moving to Springdale. I told my mom I want to get out of here. The last moment was honestly being in the living room of that trailer park or trailer, excuse me, and seeing my younger brothers, interacting with what's going on, right? The environment itself with drugs, and I just, I lost it. I said, I want to leave. Like, I want to go out of here. I want to get out of here. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. We'll get you out of here. We'll drive to Springdale.
What's in Springdale?
I had some other relatives. I have cousins and aunts and uncles.
So you're just getting passed around.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to kind of feel shitty, though.
Yeah, it's the life you chose,
Right.
Yeah, well, at least I did, right? And so I get to Springdale, and I stayed there, and it was a wonderful summer. It was, even if I was just living from house to house, I actually, it wasn't bad.
So you're a pretty nomadic person then.
Yeah.
Then you was that your final stop before the military?
No, I ended up going back. Finished my senior year. I know it's the journey was
dude,
long.
I don't know if I've ever met anybody that has moved as much as you in high school. Good
Yeah.
Lord. So your senior year, where did you finish your senior year out of?
Yeah, I went back to good old Brown County High School.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Which was your original stop, or?
No, because I was going to my junior year. I started out in a little town called
Yeah.
Griggsville. That was about 14 miles away from where I was living in Versailles.
Okay.
Right. So I went back, took another Greyhound out there because it was like a basically child support check.
Yeah.
I asked for it, and that's what I paid. I paid for a
Really?
Greyhound bus
And she
bus
gave it to
ticket.
you, huh?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, good for you, man. That's a lot for a kid, I feel like.
Yeah. It is. I
And
mean,
that was just life for you.
yeah. And at least I got there, and I knew I had one thing in mind: to graduate.
Okay.
I mean, even though I was 25 of 25, I still made the list.
Made the list, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere on there.
Yeah.
So after graduating, I mean, so did you spend your whole senior year? You stayed still for that, or did you go to multiple schools your senior year?
No, I stayed there. I was just, homeless. I even though my dad was alive at that point, I told him what I was going to do. He said, okay, take care of yourself. I was like, all right. And he was living about 14 miles away from me.
What do you mean homeless?
I was just living from house to house, my friends' houses. I was staying in, whatever bed I could find.
I hear this a lot. And it blows my mind. Like, I couldn't fathom my kids just on their own, like in high school, and just having random people take care of them. I mean, that is, it's a lot more common than we would like to think. Like, it's scary knowing that there's just, I know a couple that, like, they took a kid in. And it's like, well, he needs a place. I mean, it's great. I feel like my wife and I would do it if we had to, but fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So after all that, then is that when the military started?
Yeah, the last month before I graduated.
You were like, oh, fuck, I got to get my life. It's usually when it happens. That's when the recruiters start sniffing around.
Yeah.
And so you knew the Army? Was that like your first choice, or?
It was. I had a couple buddies that were in the National Guard, and I'm like, yeah, man, this is the best thing. You need to, you want to get out of here, you can go to basic training. But, they're just talking it up.
Yeah.
And, like, I got a recruiter. One of my close friends in high school was, he was selling it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be this 88 Mike, whatever the heck that means. Which is truck driver. But, I mean, I just, I bought it.
Yeah.
I bought it. I was like, yeah, I want that.
No kidding, huh?
Yeah.
So you go off the basic training. How was that?
Well, not even yet, because I had to go through MEPS and
yeah.
that I was going to be this 88 Mike and loving the idea of that, I went to the recruiting station, right, and told them what I wanted to do. They're all about it. Talked to the National Guard recruiter. He's like, yeah, you're the prime candidate. You're the person that can, fulfill this role. And in MEPS, I actually changed my mind.
What'd you change it to?
To 11 Bravo. Because,
yeah.
I didn't want to be somebody that was pushing mops. I wanted to kick in doors. Right?
Yep.
That's what they said to me. And I'm like, yeah.
Sign me up.
Yep.
So then off you go.
Yeah.
Then what? I mean, I want to say it's not going to be too much of a shock for you because you've had quite a bit of experience traveling on your own and being on your own. So maturity-wise, I mean, when you get to basic, compared to these other kids that probably grew up in a, I'm not saying all of them, but there's a lot of kids that grow up in perfect homes and mother, father, but obviously there's a lot that don't. Was that kind of weird, or did you fit right in with everybody else?
I just fit right in.
Yeah.
It was nothing to me. Moving into, a bunk, carrying your stuff on your back.
This was life.
Right on, man. Like, I'm about it. Let's go. Because
Yeah.
at least I'm not in Illinois, right?
Right, not in a trailer.
Yeah.
So what was training like for you? I love hearing people's stories because everybody's boot camp stories are so different. Like everybody had such a different experience. Like even if you're in the same platoon, it's still a different experience for everybody. It's hilarious. Listen to that.
Man, my drill sergeant hated me.
Why were you his target?
Because I was just a big guy.
Yeah, you are a pretty big dude.
And I couldn't run worth a crap.
No?
I couldn't run. I hated running. But the thing is, like, you just were forced to. That's what you had to do. For me, I had a target on my back just because I was that guy. He's like, hey, why are you always slow? Why are you always this? And yeah, I easily developed a name, but I'm like, okay, well, at least I'm still here. I'm going to perform. I'm going to do whatever I need to survive. And I think a little bit of that kind of attitude to where he was looking at, like, me not quitting.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I just became more and more, like, under the microscope.
So you kind of faded back? Or you kind of came into the light because you couldn't break you, or what?
Yeah, it became something to me where it was, I found more of the purpose of why I was there.
Okay.
Talking to more, of your peers there, and then you're all privates, you don't know anything, but you're like, yeah, you live on this grandeur of what could be and what is, and these options that the Army gives you, or, the stories of who came before you. And so I was developing that, and I was creating my own story in my mind of where I could, be in the future. So where you have somebody that, like the drill sergeant, that was very irritated with my performance, I understood, like, this is what I have. This is all that I have. And I have to be okay with that at this point because I know I can get better.
It's so, during that time, I mean, obviously you're learning a lot.
Yeah.
Learning a lot about yourself, learning a lot how to work with other people and deal with a bunch of other privates that piss in their pants and doing all the weirdest shit you've never even experienced before. So after that, I mean, in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, I'm going to go be a trigger puller here. What year is this? What year did you go to boot camp?
In 2008, I was out in Fort Benning.
So, I mean, the war's hooking and jabbing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're signing up to be a grunt, so you're getting deployed at some point.
Oh, yeah.
What did your buddies think of that we're all motor T? Were they like, motherfucker, like they thought they had you coming in or what?
They were like, oh, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You know how hard it is? I'm like, dude, I don't even know anything. And here's the truth. Like, I didn't know crap. I mean, even though my father was a Korean War vet and my uncle was a Vietnam vet, like, they told me nothing.
Same. I knew what the recruiters told me. That was it. I mean, but also at the same time, like 2003, it's not like we had the YouTube and Google as much as it is now. But we didn't even own a computer when I was growing up. Yeah. So it's like, what fucking research am I going to do? Besides, like, well, raise your right hand. And I was like, cool. Like, I had no idea what even happened at boot camp. Like, it's like, you just, like, get thrown into it. And you're like, I should have done my homework.
Yeah, 100% same. I got there, and it's not, again, it's not so much the traveling and pieces of it's just the culture shock,
atmosphere.
right? And you're just like, whoa, like,
yeah,
this is not what I wanted to do.
I'm standing nut to butt on some guy in the airport, and people are looking at us. I'm like, this is not the commercials that I saw. Yeah. None of this was in the Marine Corps commercials. So after boot camp, where were you off to after that?
I did a little hometown recruiting, and then to answer your question, I actually went up to my friend. I was like, this is not bad. And, just to tell him, like, hey, you can do it, essentially. Yeah. And I finished up my hometown recruiting, and then I went to Fort Lewis.
Where's Fort Lewis?
Out in Washington. Yeah, Washington State. So
how was that transition?
A lot easier, because I felt like I could be stable.
Okay.
Right. I had my bags. I knew where I was going to go. Understanding from, again, being that 16-year-old, like I just always remembered that piece of always jumping from here to there. And now I finally am stationed at a unit for 3 years, and that was long enough for me.
Was that weird? So I mean, you almost trained yourself to this chaotic life of constantly shifting, which is almost the best case scenario to join the military because it's the norm for you now. Your norm is not having a secured home and always being bounced around. But then now that you get stationed somewhere for 3 years, was that weird, or were you thriving for that?
I was thriving.
Really? So you needed it?
I did. And it's so weird how that is, a constant part of me, even still now. Like, there is that sense of, I say adventure, I don't know, maybe escapism. Something about that was normal, and you're absolutely right.
That's interesting. So what was 11 Bravo training like?
Man, it was so fun.
Yeah?
No, it was terrible. No, it was great. It was great in the sense of, like, I suffered with so many great people.
Okay. How so?
I mean, you just grow up with these knuckleheads. You're all 18, 19 years old, and you're developing that relationship. And where I say it sucks, it really doesn't. It sucks because it's physically taxing, right? But in the grand scheme of things, you're like, man, that was pretty cool. Like, I mean, not so much the smoking sessions, but. Yeah.
It's always fun to try to. I think that's what separates a lot of us from the civilian camaraderie side of things is because, like you said it so perfect, like you're surrounded by a bunch of 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. Yeah. And granted, there's obviously all ages, but the majority, that's it. And you're learning and developing and growing all together through some of the most chaotic bullshit you've ever done in your life. And the bonds that come out of that are unbreakable.
Absolutely.
And it's fun. It's funny to watch because where else besides maybe sports teams that you're trauma bonded with 50 other guys that you can look at each other and just laugh over some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the military is a very fascinating world, especially as a child, an 18-year-old kid. And now you got some guy screaming in your face, and you're looking at the next guy that's getting hazed next to you, and you're like been there, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. That just makes you feel a little bit better about your day.
Yeah, unless you're on the target, you're on the radar, then it's just you all the time. But
yeah,
man, that's pretty fascinating. Like how you were almost looking for that peace and calm, like once you were there for 3 years, So after so I want to hear some 11 Bravo training because I don't know if we've had anybody explain it yet. So 11 Bravo is a grunt.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're learning how to shoot machine guns. You're learning all the tactics. I mean, how long is that school? How many months is it? Is it pretty quick?
For OSIT, I'd say it's 4 weeks.
Okay.
Once you get down to your basic training and then you go to your individual training, right? That's that individualized training is going to be about 4 weeks.
So you go through boot camp, and then once you're boot camp, that's when you're learning how to be a grunt.
Yeah.
And what does that entail?
Ooh, a lot of range days, a lot of going into specific tactics, right? Just doing patrols, looking at doing even a little bit of patrol-based operations. And we don't go into the thick of things, but you just you follow the infantryman's Bible, right? 7-8. You're nose in it all the time, and that's how you're going to set up your securities and understanding kind of the dynamics of how to be an infantryman out in sector.
And so this whole entire time, I mean, the war's going on, and it's still popping, I guess. Afghan 2008, I mean, that's kicking off, right? I mean, it's still,
Oh, yeah.
I want to say, 2004? Yeah, so 2008-ish, I mean, that's when Iraq, I don't want to say it was slowing down, but I mean, Afghan was starting to pop off a lot more then. I mean, is that always in the back of your head? I mean, if you're joining to be in the a grunt, it's got to be something that you're thinking about quite often, right?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely in the back of my mind I mean, for everybody, that's all we talked about late at night, whenever you're underneath the Georgia stars, you're like, man, where the heck are we going? Because we know once this is over, La La Land is gone, and, the umbilical cord is cut, and we're about to move out, and when this ain't going to happen again. Like, this interaction between all of us, I mean, hey.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That is weird, like, knowing. See, I don't know if it was just because of the era that we were in. We didn't have the social where it was in your face and you were watching everything. But, like, even still after joining in 2004, it wasn't like we're all going to war. And obviously that's what I joined. We all, 9/11 already happened, so it was like our calling. But it wasn't like even at boot camp, I don't ever remember them being like, you guys were preparing you for war. It was just like we were just going along through boot camp. It wasn't ever pushed on us. But by 2008, I mean, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So you knew it was coming.
Oh, yeah.
How long after you graduated before your first deployment?
I ended up deploying in June of 2009.
So pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where'd you go?
I was in Iraq in Diyala province.
What's there? What towns?
Shoot, I don't remember the towns. I'll be
Yeah,
honest with you.
there's
Yeah.
so many. How was that? 2008 was it or 2009 pretty slow?
It was pretty slow.
Yeah.
I didn't deal with a lot of what was going on. Honestly, I was a driver as a private. I stayed within the truck. I just maintained the vehicle.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything super sexy. I was just there. That was my mission. That was it.
Yeah.
And what was great about my leadership, my squad leader, was very, very concentrated on, everybody having a part in understanding the other roles within, the squad.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back at it now because I've been through different duty stations. I'm like, man, that guy just knew what he was doing. And he cared about us in a way that we were educated, even though it's just, because again, it's our specific duty as infantrymen to understand how to be a rifleman, how to be the saw gunner, and maintain a vehicle if you're on a striker. Because I was in a striker unit.
Oh, okay. So explain a striker for everybody listening.
It's a big green pickle.
Big green pickle. What gun does it have on it?
No, it has a 50 caliber, or you can mount I forgot about the M2. Not sorry.
240.
No, man, I can't even remember now. We're looking at the automatic grenade
Oh,
launcher.
the 40 Mike.
Yeah, 40 Mike.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, dude, there's so many people ask me questions like times and dates and shit. And I'm the worst
Dude,
at
I
it.
am. Yeah.
Both my deployments, I can't tell the difference between. It's all blurred now. It's been so long. Like I couldn't tell you like which deployment was what. It's so hard. I have to like ask buddies every now and then.
Yeah.
So you could have the striker. I thought the striker. What has the 25 millimeter cannon on it? Is that the?
So that's Bradley. Your Bradley.
That's right. I should have known
that. A lot
that.
more aggressive.
Yeah.
A lot more aggressive.
Which ones
vehicle.
has the strikers? You guys have the cages around them? I'm trying to
Yeah,
think.
we have the RPG cages.
Do those ever work?
Work?
Do they,
I mean,
like-
we have the slide armor on the bottom. I mean, they look aggressive.
I'm talking the cages, like the Mad Max looking cages.
Yeah,
Does that
they
ever,
do.
Does it work? I mean, with an RPG?
I could only assume. I've never been in contact, luckily, with an RPG hitting the actual cages. But from the stories, right, of my actual leaders, like, this has been, a very specific incident, where it did save, our life. And I was like, okay.
I've always wondered that. When we were in Afghan, we had these big Mad Max buses that had the cages on the side and the exact same. And I'm always like, this is not going to do shit. Well, because everything you see blown up, it's like usually catastrophic, right? And so it's like, is it more just like makes you feel good, until you get hit? Like I've always wondered that. I would like to sit down with somebody and that was in a striker that got hit with an RPG and be like, how was it? Did it still penetrate? Yeah, I have a lot of questions for those. So you go to Iraq and it's more of just you're in a driver position.
Yeah.
And which I mean is a good and bad thing. You probably wanted to get out and be hooking and jabbing, but
be a dismount, and I finally got that at the trail end, but that was just the way it went. I was that was somebody that was trusted with that.
Yeah.
And he never changed his ways about you will be this position because I feel safe in this way.
I mean that's
fair.
Yeah, can't complain about that.
Yeah.
So you come back. How was coming back? How long were you gone?
I was gone for 11 months.
Okay,
And
not bad.
almost 12 months, but we came back in July, I want to say.
Okay.
And coming back was different because everybody had different experiences, right? I was just in that platoon where we didn't have a lot of chaos. We didn't have a lot of the gunfights that everybody else was dealing with. And you deal with aggression with different platoons. Like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. It's like, look, I mean, at the same time, we all gave something, right? And that's usually time, and that's what you're angry about, more than likely.
And it's funny you bring that up because you see that a lot in the military. Because I feel like most people think that everybody goes to combat. If you're served your country, like you went to combat. When in reality, I think it's like 1%. I want to say 1% actually like go to combat. And so it's like, but then on that, it's like, oh, we did, there's always this huge flex within the military of, you guys did do shit on that deployment. It's fun to always watch. And, I deal with a lot because we were always on these big groups with vets, and they're like, oh, we were in Ramadi there in this time. Well, that wasn't when this was. We did, And so you see these guys like always having to flex on each other when they're in these cities first, and it's hilarious to me. But like you said, it's like, dude, everybody signed. We're all there for the same reason. Just some people, fuck, it's just your path. Like, we had a team on our platoon, and their sole purpose was just support, and they followed us everywhere, and they'd sit in the vehicles on comm all day, and they couldn't even get out to take a piss. Like, that was I remember looking at them like, fuck that. Yeah. Fuck that. Like, I'm not getting in trouble because they're going to stick me there. Like, and so, but it's hilarious to think like how much banter goes back and forth of what you did overseas. And I get it, dude. Some of those dudes, they have the right. I mean, fuck, they've done some crazy shit. Like, you earned that badge, So how long were you back before you did 2 deployments, right?
Yeah.
So how long was your break?
About a 7-month break, because I ended up re-enlisting in Iraq.
Did you get a bonus?
I got a $5,000 bonus. Yeah. Don't hate me too much.
The early days, dude. I remember dudes were getting like 40, 50 grand for and tax-free for re-enlisting over there.
I
yeah.
didn't know. I didn't get that. I got like $5K.
That GWAT money was drained up by the time you were re-enlisting. But $5K, I mean, after taxes, you get like $1,500.
It was all right. It was enough for me. It was definitely plenty enough for me.
So out of that 7 months you were back, were you training, or was it 7 months and then you started workups to go deploy again?
We just took basically a I would say rest cycle, right? It's not really that. You're just getting all the equipment back from deployment. You're doing a lot of inventories, and then ready to either a lot of people are going to PCS or they're about to move to a different duty station.
Yep.
And I was one of those candidates. Since I re-enlisted, I wanted to deploy.
Really?
That was it. I was like, I don't want to necessarily just be stuck in a truck. Like, I want action. I want to do something that isn't what this was for me.
For sure.
Right? So.
How was that? I mean, so then what? Did you volunteer to go to a new platoon, or did you just, once you re-enlisted, was it needs of the Army, or did you get the request where you wanted to go?
I got the request. I
What'd
ended up going to Germany.
Really?
Yeah.
How was that?
That was chaos.
Why?
Man, I thought I was ready to take on a whole new training cycle.
Okay.
And understand, like, everything here that I've had in Fort Lewis is going to be the same over there, out there in Germany and whatever unit. Boy, that was idiotic.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you could do the same job here.
Yeah.
But then go to another base on the other side of the country, and it is not the same.
Yeah.
Same exact MOS, completely two different worlds. So you go to Germany.
Yeah, man.
Did you find a wife in Germany?
No. But
a lot of dudes do, dude. I know a lot of Army guys marry them German women.
No, I did not have a German wife from Germany there. Actually, I met my first wife there before I actually went, and that was all chaotic in itself.
What do you mean you met your first wife there before you went?
I was 19 years old, man, and I was like, oh yeah, I met a girl in basically our, what is it? WLC is what we called it. It's a warrior leader course.
Okay.
And I was big bad specialist, thinking I'm, single, no problems, and end up being hooked up with a girl and. Idiot.
Yeah, at 19 in the Army?
Yeah, I was 19 when I came back, man.
You fucked that up.
I did, 100% I did. I always thought that.
And she was in the Army?
Yeah, she was
you're
in the
batting
Army.
1,000.
Dude, I was, yeah.
1,000, bro.
But I'm pretty much the poster boy of those bad decisions, right?
What was her MOS? Was she an MP?
She was Signal. She was a
Con girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a red flag. That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Young and dumb, buddy.
Yeah.
Young and dumb. We've all been there. We got those stories. So you got married. How quick did you get married?
It wasn't until whenever I came back on I want to say R&R from that deployment.
Oh, so you met her right before you deployed?
Yeah.
And that everything was good when you got back?
No. I wish I could say yes.
I knew already. I had to ask. I already knew where that was going.
Yeah.
I had to ask.
Here we go.
How'd that go? Yeah, let's dig into this.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just obviously doing what I did with that first marriage. It was, that point in my life where that deployment where it really went sour. Right?
Your first or second?
The second one.
Let's get into this.
And it was a unit at first where I was just having issues.
This is from Germany.
Yeah, this is getting into Germany. This is me leaving, Fort Lewis.
Okay.
And I was on a high because it's like, this is the best damn place I've ever been. Leaders there
in Germany.
No. This is from Fort Lewis. Like,
okay.
This is what I've developed as like, everything will model after this, assuming that. Mm-hmm. And what happens when you assume? You find out real quick. Mm-hmm. Right? I get to Germany, and I get into my new company, and a lot of things I got to figure out of basically who I'm going to be as a leader, because I was going to take up a team, and then the overall shift of the armor into infantry started happening. Right, there was this integration. Mm-hmm. And we had tankers, and regardless of MOS, I don't really care. Mm-hmm. It was this transition of real leadership within the company level that I was getting exposed to that really I shouldn't have really seen, because there's that politics that kind of bleed into it, right? Mm-hmm. And that was my first time dealing with that as a, young E4, thinking that he's this macho person, and then understanding that there's this thing called politics that live and breathe, or it's bureaucratic, right, in these company levels.
100%. I think a lot of people don't realize how bad the politics are in the military, which trickles down all the way to the private level, which ends up they're the ones that get shit on the most, are the troops, because of politics. Yeah. Working late because the major's here. Oh, Sergeant Major's here, we can't leave before him. And it's all just flexing, showing off, and trying to make their platoon look better. I mean, it's crazy. You'd think, like, we're here to do a job. Let's get it done and get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Instead of, like, we have to play politics. We have to come in on Saturday because another team's here cleaning weapons, and we can't let them look better than us. I never understood that. No. Politics in the military were wild. That was a big reason I got out. Like, after picking up E6, if anybody knows me, I am not one to play in the sandbox when it comes to politics and having to burn people to make yourself look better or your team look better. I already knew, like, that wasn't my career path. I couldn't do it. Yeah, man. It's crazy though. It's crazy how much it happens, and it's all it's based off of. Yeah. And so now you're getting a little taste of it.
Yeah, showing face. Oh, I'm doing this. Got to do the extracurriculars just to make yourself look good because I'm the chosen one, or whatever. I mean, with that idea right in mind. So, I get exposed to that for the first time within the first, 6-7 months, because we're about ready to deploy. We haven't even, we're close to doing our pre-deployment training, which we called like the MRE, which is not what you think of like an actual MRE, but mission readiness exercise out there. Yeah. And the exercise in itself was right outside of our gate, because in Grafenwehr, Germany, that installation, they have enough training space that you can do stuff like that. So I didn't go to Hohensfeld, which is normally the place where people go to do their pre-deployment training.
Okay.
And that was a shit show.
Why?
My commander gets fired.
For what?
He gets fired. I mean, and I didn't know the specifics, right? It was just because of a leadership issue. Let's just say that, because
that had to be a major problem.
Yeah, again, especially whenever we're about to deploy, and this is our, basically
this is your commander that you're supposed to be deploying
company
with.
Company commander
gets fired. How quick? How close?
Within 3 weeks
of deploying.
Yeah. It was a toughie.
God.
It was a toughie. And I'm already losing faith in like me being here, and I know, I've built so much of this confidence, right, from Fort Lewis, and then, I'm now in a billet where I can make a little bit of decisions. You're not really making a lot as a team leader, but I'm also being exposed to what is bad leadership.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm like, man, I don't know what the heck to do, who to complain to. And all the other team leaders like,
What was making it such poor conditions? Like, what was poor leadership that you like had nobody to go to over it?
just a level. It's just a level of care.
Okay.
I mean,
There's no
if I
troop-
were to strip everything away, it's just a level of care.
No troop welfare.
No.
See, that sucks.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a miserable time.
this guy in one instance was talking smack on this dude, but but this is what one of the actions, right? Is took his Humvee because we were training right outside of the gate, and we just go back into the PX and grab his stuff and hang out there, and then come back, and then we're out there in the field as soldiers are, and maybe there was another excuse to why that was acceptable.
Oh, so he took his Humvee.
Yeah, and was just out there in the middle of the installation, right?
Yeah.
And he'd be hanging out there
While the training exercises are going on.
while the soldiers are out there outside the wire, right? And that was an eye opener, and I was like, okay, this is.
Which to people listening, I don't mean to interrupt, but people listening, like, okay, who cares? This guy went back and to the PX. But when you're in the field and everybody's miserable and everyone's hungry and dirty or cold or wet or sleep deprived, and you find out some motherfucker's going back and getting hot chow or McDonald's, or he's not sleeping in the field, you want to talk about an uprising.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest morale killers. I've talked about it a little bit on some of the other episodes about I had a leader that we found out I caught him with a sat phone. We were out there for months out in Iraq.
Dude.
And every time we'd go back, if we were lucky to go back to a base and make a phone call, my wife always knew what was going on at the time. I was like, how the fuck do you know? This just happened.
Yeah.
Like nobody's been out of, because we were operating out of a town. And if anybody went back to the town, it was I was the lieutenant's driver, so anybody would come back with us. They would convoy back, because anytime anybody had to go to the fob, he would go and debrief or whatever officer shit had to do. And every time I called my wife, I'd run. We'd have like 2 minutes on a sat phone, and she'd be like, I heard so-and-so, I heard this. How the fuck? I never knew. And then I went over to my buddy's vehicle one day, and I caught that dude on a cell phone, on a sat phone. And I went and told my lieutenant, and my lieutenant had his ass, because we were tight.
Yeah.
But yeah, but he was an absolute piece of shit. He got a year's supply of Monster donated to our platoon, and he kept it all in his garage and never gave one of them away.
Awesome. What a fantastic
That type.
gentleman.
So I know what you're talking about. But it doesn't sound like much. But when like life is shit and your conditions are absolute hell for like during workups, I don't know how your guys were, but our workups are miserable. Like, and then if somebody screws up or loses something, then you're just 10xing the misery, right? And so, but then that's when you find out, like, this motherfucker got a California burrito and didn't ask if we wanted any. It's like those little things, but it's a lot at that time, because it's like morale's low. We're getting ready to go to Afghan or Iraq, whatever the scenario is, and then you find out this dude's supposed to be your leader and he's not even taking care of you. So I get it. To some people listening, they might not seem like that's a big deal, but like,
That's a big deal.
it's a big deal, especially when it's your leadership. And you're like,
Yeah.
you motherfuckers aren't looking out for us. And it's a big deal. So he's doing that shit.
Oh yeah, making out with his wife, I guess. I don't know. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, but it was that was the rumor, right? Where the PNN, the private news network, is already ripping and rolling.
We call it the Lance Corporal Underground. If you ever needed to know anything that was going on when you were deploying, when you were coming back, what was happening, you went to Lance Corporals. Those little fuckers knew everything. I'd always walk in and be like, give me the dirt. What's the tea? And the troops always know what's going on, or they think they do at least. But
it's sad too, though. Like, dang, you just kind of reflect on like having a child, a 16-year-old kid, being exposed to life, and it's kind of the same instance, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, he gets fired. Our first sergeant.
So he was the one that got fired. So rightfully so then. Yeah. So, okay. So it was probably for the best.
Yeah. And then our first sergeant gets fired as well.
What?
He ended up taking his RTO, his commo guy. He hits him in the head with a microphone. That just hits him on the head. And then there was so much, and I'm sure there's more to the story, right? But that was one instance I knew. And there was more of that toxic leadership that was involved in this. And I can't speak on it because I don't know enough about what the intricacies were that he was involved in. But he left too. basically a week after. And we're talking about a 3-week rotation out there to basically get us to deploy to Afghanistan.
And now you have no staff, senior staff.
This is our first sergeant and our commander.
That's insane. They had to have really fucked up to get relieved that close to being deployed.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I don't know what the details were, but yeah.
I ended up finding out that the one guy I was telling about, just the poor leadership. We went on this string, like this. I don't know. It felt like it lasted eternity, but it was like maybe a month where we got hazed. I'll have to bring one of my buddies on to go over how bad we got hazed, and we never could figure out why. We were a really belligerent, fucked up platoon. Like they were trying to reward us. Like, if you guys go a whole week without an alcohol-related incident, we're gonna give you a 96 or we'll give you a 72. You just have to make it Monday to Friday, and we'll give you next Monday off. And it ended up like, if you guys can make it 2 days, we'll give you a 96. We'll give you Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off if you can make it 2 days. And it never did. They ended up putting us a lock. That's how bad our platoon was. But at the same time, it was like these guys, like we would find out, we would get hazed for the littlest things. But I'm talking like hazing to the max. A whole platoon. I mean, we were doing PT runs with Ma Deuces and the barrels, and they were burying barrels in the sand, and we're digging them, and dude, it was horrible. And then come to find out, this leader, I don't even like referring to him as leader.
Fair.
He ended up losing his pistol in the ocean, and apparently, once that came out, he already had a couple strikes, and they told him if there was any more incidences, he was getting relieved of command. So then he took it out on us, because he got out of the vehicle while we were going out to a ship. Mm-hmm. Their vehicle went down. We have these plenums that you lift to get down into the engine. Yeah. And I guess when he went to do it, he hit his pistol out of his holster, and it wasn't dummy corded to him. And it like, I don't know, a couple clicks off of the California coast. So there's a Beretta sitting on the bottom of the ocean somewhere out there. So he took it out on us because he was really close to being relieved of command, and coming to find out, it was because he was a piece of shit, not us. I mean, granted, our platoon was horrible. Like, I think we had like 15 NJPs off of one training incident, like alcohol-related incidences out of 29 palms. Like, it was wild. I mean, so we weren't like the textbook perfect platoon. We were out of control, added to his problem. So yeah, it was a lot. But I mean, it just showed like he was under the microscope or the magnifying glass, and he took everything out on us for our whole workups, and it was horrible. And it was our second deployment, so a lot of us, like, I think we had 2 or 3 troops in our platoon. We were all corporals and sergeants. I mean, it was an NCO heavy platoon, and we were getting treated like troops, and it was miserable, all because of one leader. I wish he would have gotten relieved. It would have been a godsend.
Yeah, I hate that for you, and I could definitely.
Yeah,
there's stuff I could definitely relate to.
Yeah, for sure.
In my own experience.
So you lose your company commander and your company first sergeant weeks before deploying.
Yeah.
Who do they replace him with?
So I think it was a master sergeant that came from staff, and then I don't know where our new commander came in, but
Can you imagine? Hey, you got to go to this platoon. They're deploying in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Can you imagine that phone call?
No. Yeah, to a company though. The company where we.
Yeah, not a platoon. Yeah. A company. You're taking over a company in 2 weeks before you guys you were going to Afghan.
Yeah. Yep.
I bet you that was not fun at all.
No, it's stressful for everybody.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that's the most engagement. Because I would never, ever go to my platoon sergeant. I would never talk to my PL.
No.
Where I came from that was not a thing. You're like.
You saw chevrons. You didn't talk to them.
Yeah.
At least how I was raised. Like you put your head down and greeted them, and you just kept going.
Yep. And that was where we were at. You know, as a company. Mm-hmm. And that's very unfortunate. That's where, you know, we had to all come together and be like, okay, we're gonna fix this as a platoon.
Yeah.
You know?
Did that bring you guys tighter as a platoon, or did it drive a wedge? I mean, or did you not see a difference?
You know, it was honestly driving a wedge, because it's the fact that fear was taking over a lot of individuals.
Because they just didn't have trust in the company?
Yeah.
Okay.
And fear not in the way of they're doing their job, but yeah, it's just like, okay, I only trust our leadership in this way because I was designed that way, and we're seeing them, being out of the fight.
And you're going to war.
Yeah.
And now you have all new leadership. They have no idea. That's crazy. I've never heard of somebody getting relieved. I mean, I've heard of guys fucking up overseas and getting relieved, but like not 3 weeks before. They had to. I would love to know what they had to do to get relieved in command. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever legitimately seen guys relieved of command was when one of our instructors drowned in a vehicle. And then after the inspection, they saw everything that didn't happen. And I was just talking this about a buddy. I've never witnessed anything like it. We had this, I don't even know where this guy came from, what level of Marine Corps he was. I'll never forget, they had all the instructors in the bleachers, and this sitting right bottom bleacher. You're this colonel. Literally we're this close, but I'm sitting like looking at him, and I'm a sergeant at this time. Maybe, yeah, I was a sergeant. No skivvy shirt underneath his blouse, so it's just chest hair hanging out, which you got to be a pretty crusty motherfucker to rock no skivvy shirt underneath your blouse. And he was like, as of today, I fired your CO, your XO, your sergeant. He fired the whole entire chain of command and stood there and like bragged about it. And we're all like looking like, holy shit. I get it, like they're this platoon commander and stuff. I don't, I can't talk on it. It wasn't my platoon, but a vehicle went down and a Marine got trapped in it and drowned, and so it was a pretty horrible thing. Thank God all the students made it out, but I mean, obviously. But when they went through the after action, did the inspections of the vehicle, there was a lot that didn't take place beforehand, and so they relieved everybody, and that's the only that I can justify. If the staff aren't doing their jobs and making sure their instructors aren't doing their job, I mean, shit rolls uphill at that point, not downhill. I mean, everybody at the top's getting let go. So I could understand that. But to get that close to a deployment, that's wild to me.
Yeah.
So you guys are off to Afghan.
Yeah, we finally get there.
Brand new leadership.
Yeah.
Brand new leadership. And you're off to Afghan. Where'd you guys land?
We're in Logman province.
Where's that?
That's what's probably east. Yeah, northeast.
Okay.
And we were in a place called Backpack, which is our little cop that we're staying in. And
what's the terrain like where you're at? Is it flat desert or are you in the mountains?
Oh, we're in the mountains.
Okay, so you're in it.
Yeah, and it was lovely. The scene was lovely.
Are you being sarcastic about that?
I am being very sarcastic. There's like 3 villages. We're basically in a bowl, and we're this small little cop.
Right in the middle
right out there in Logman province, and it was interesting.
I want to know who's in charge of finding locations to build these mini fobs, or what do you guys call them?
Cob. So
a cob.
Yeah.
Like, and I see some of these army bases, and they'll be in the bottom of a bowl, it's surrounded by mountains, and they're like, "We get mortared every day." And it's like, well, no shit, they're looking straight into your fob. Like, who picked this spot? That always blew my mind. That's one thing in the military of all of our tactics and everything we do. Somebody's going to stand in this valley and be like, right here,
George. This is what we want.
Or are they just looking on a map and not looking at the topographical lines and being like, yeah, right there looks like a pretty good spot to me. And then they get there. I mean, that always blows my mind. So you get to Afghan. You guys are getting settled in. What's your day to day?
Within the first month, I want to say there was a National Guard lieutenant that was under investigation, and he committed suicide.
There?
Yeah.
What was he under investigation for?
Loss of equipment. It was a really big
Killed himself
deal.
over lost
He
equipment?
was signed for a lot of stuff. That was there at the cop that we were at, and at least that's from what I heard, right? And then I didn't read the investigation reports or anything like that, but he ended up taking his life.
Damn.
Yeah.
Over equipment.
Over equipment that he was signed for.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. What were your missions? What was your day-to-day when you were there?
Man.
Were you foot or mobile?
Oh, we were foot.
Oh.
Yep. Just
climbing
walking.
mountains all day?
I was a beast.
Is that where your calves came from? You got giant. Your calves are the size of my fucking head. So.
Yeah. No, that's the Islander side. That's my Fijian
all
side,
of them,
actually.
dude.
Yeah.
I got a buddy, man, and that dude. Every time we meet up, he'll just be like, "Look at my." I'm like, "Shut up!" And he's got this just massive Islander boys, man. You guys are built with them. So you guys are on ground mounts.
Yeah.
You kicking in doors? Like, what did you just
No,
patrolling?
we're just patrolling.
How was that? Was it pretty wild or was it pretty calm?
You know, it was slow because we had, you know, we have elevation, you have, you know, the terrain itself, and we're not fit.
Yeah.
Like, I was an I mean, not even E5 then. I was working in a line, you know, squad, and they asked me, they're like, hey, we need somebody to carry the 240.
Oh, what's a 240 weigh? It's got to be 30 pounds, right?
Maybe, yeah, give or take. And they're like, you're going to be the guy that is going to go to weapon squad, and you're going to carry that just because you're the, you know, you're the guy that
And
can.
there's no comfortable way of carrying a 240.
Yeah, but that was our condition. That was our physical condition, in, you know, including the elevation and where we're at. We don't have machine guns as we're patrolling, and we only had 15 people. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 15 to
What?
17. Yeah, man, we were super low on manning.
Wait, so you guys are rolling with that many numbers on foot, and you don't even have any machine guns with you? You're all just carrying.
We had the sauce, but we couldn't go. Like I say, slow. The process was super slow. So when we're getting used to that elevation and the terrain, and it was a terrible process for all of us. And it was a good realization. It's like, look, obviously we're not fit. We need to get fit. We just got to get out there and go as far as we can, so that, you know, our saw gunners can get acclimated quickly. And even then, our PL wasn't even acclimated. He got sick, you know, within our first, you know, months. And in his patrols, like, he was getting sick.
And you guys are fighting Afghanis in the mountains that are running around in freaking man dresses and Jesus flip-flops.
Yeah.
And you guys are out here with 300 pounds of gear on.
Yeah.
You're just dying.
It was a thing, and in uniform, you know, they care about uniform. Like, oh, you got to have
proper PPE. Where's your cover, motherfucker? I'm in a war zone. Like, I don't know.
Hey, there's something special about being a grunt, though. You know, to be able to just suffer through that. I don't know. Maybe we're just special people.
The grunts are definitely special people, special individuals for sure, 100%. So how long till you guys were acclimated?
Maybe two months. We were finally being able to roll out and you know, go about, you know, 5 clicks to the villages and interact and it
so
was.
You guys spent the first 2 months just training, pretty much, then.
Yeah, walking back and forth. I mean,
was there any contact or anything, or is it pretty low key at this point?
It was very low key.
Okay.
Very low key. It was just, again, really the terrain. Just overall what is natural, organic out there. That was the enemy at the time.
No shit.
Yeah.
So once you guys felt comfortable enough to start pushing distances, what did anything change at that point? Were you starting to get into more shit, or was it just were the villages pretty open to you?
It was very open. None of our interactions, at least while I was there, it was pretty calm. Yeah. Like, very calm. I mean, we were very consistent in the way we dealt with in the local populace. And we didn't have a bad footing with them. Yeah. And so when we were rolling into the towns, we didn't have a bad greeting. And I mean, we just got very lucky. And that was only a quarter of that deployment that we were there, because we ended up moving a lot more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where to?
We went to another cop called Zeo Hawk, and it was, I mean, I couldn't tell you how roughly. It was just another place within Logbin province. Okay. And we got outfitted out there with a National Guard unit, and, you know, they were actually taking a lot more action than we were, where our simple company was out in the middle of the mountains. And they were fighting. They were engineers. Like, they were actually doing a lot of work. And, like, man. And that's why we were sent there, to help supplement them.
How did that go over?
Really well.
Yeah.
I mean, we blended in really well with the Oklahoma National Guard. And, you know, they were hitters. Like, it was nice talking to individuals that would have been,
that had competence. They were competent about what they were doing.
Yes, absolutely. And that was an easy integration to work with the engineers like that. And I've always made fun of something that's always outside of the 11 Bravo realm, for sure. You know, but to interact with people that were actually fighting and making a difference. I thought making a difference, right? Because one, it's not just like a combat engineer just out there looking for a fight. It's one, they're all just building roads. They're helping with structuring, you know, at least for the community.
And fighting at the same time.
Yeah.
That's insane about combat engineers, is like they have such a crazy job to be able to build bridges and redo roads and bunkers and all these things, right? And at the same time, they're out there and getting in straight full firefights. I mean, this guy's driving a dozer one day, and the next day he's hooking and jabbing, and then back in a dozer again, or he's got a metal detector in his hand and he's sweeping for caches or whatever the hell's in the ground. That's what's crazy is engineers. I mean, they have a wild job. I mean, I guess not. I don't want to say everybody in the military has a wild one, but like guys like that they wear multi hats. It's fascinating, and nobody really ever considers like, oh, hey, this is my job. I'm supposed to be here just to helping build a little base, and then the next day they're yanked out of their hooch and they're attached to a unit and they're leading patrol with a friggin' metal detector walking down a trail so they don't get blown up. I mean, that's a fascinating job too. Mm-hmm. So as you guys are are you learning tactics and things from them and how they're dealing with stuff, or are you guys kind of separating? Are you guys integrating? Like, are you going out with the engineers, or are you guys just kind of supporting each other?
We're supporting each other.
Okay.
They had their own mission set. We're, if they needed support and the sense
Mm-hmm.
of security as they're, doing their, inspections of the roads, I guess, if you will. We'd be out there with them in sector and provide that security. And they would show us basically how to run, sweep basically for any type of IEDs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great relationship we built with them, in that it was 2 to 4 months that we were out there at that facility or that base, right?
Yeah. Was that your final place, or did you go somewhere else?
We ended up going further east.
Okay.
And we were out in, man, I forgot the place out there out east, man. But we ended up getting closer to our battalion because we were just sent out as like,
Just 15.
like a detail, essentially a detail of this company. There was only 15 within the platoon.
Yeah.
But our company was being,
Okay.
kind of pimped out to different units that needed the support. So
Yeah. How was that when you're back closer to your battalion? Because that could be good or bad. When you're back next to the flagpole,
That's not good.
That's when the games start, huh?
Yeah. We get to a point, and I didn't mention this before, but I ended up leaving that deployment twice. I lost my son during that time. And
I am so sorry.
First month. And my wife at the time was trying to commit suicide on Skype while I was in there. I was, in the first 2 months.
And they made you come back, or did you volunteer to come back?
Oh, that made me come back. I mean, I volunteered. I don't know. I think it's kind of this weird. I asked for, not emergency leave, but it was just a request, right, to get back to the duty station, right, because she was in the military, and I was like, hey, I want to go back to Fort Lewis. And I got kind of brushed away.
Of course.
There's the mission itself. Do the mission. We'll work on that, whatever that looks like, and we'll give you an answer when we can.
Did they know the details?
Yeah, my platoon sergeant and first sergeant were right there watching her cut her wrist, or attempting to cut her wrist.
And they denied it still?
For the compassionate reassignment, they looked into it. I always asked, and it just never came to fruition. Bottom line, just didn't happen.
Holy shit, man!
Yeah,
Good
I
old
cremated my son, and had to go through that.
I am so sorry.
Well, also, it's
How are you supposed to be processing this?
That's a great question. I processed it by leaving, by going back to Afghanistan.
I can see that. Yeah, I probably would have run too.
I didn't have a solid answer on how I could process these things other than just doing my job.
How old was your son?
He was a stillborn.
Okay.
Right, and about 6 months, I want to say. I could be wrong. It's just I remember the photos and having to come back in the call and basically put him in the machine to cremate him.
Jesus. And your wife?
Yeah,
She
my
was
wife
trying
at the time.
Was trying to slit her wrist before or after this?
It was after.
Was this a big reason why? I mean, did it hit her hard?
Yeah, and I didn't process it the best way I could. I just, move on. The mission goes on.
Isn't it crazy to think, like, how we process things at different points in our life?
Yeah.
There's things I look back and I've talked to my wife about how we've gone through things, and it's like, God, I was such a fucking piece of shit for how I processed that. And, like, I look at it now and I'm like, it completely different.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have done the exact same thing in your shoes at that point, but now I'd have been like, I need to be here for my wife. But back, young kid, I'd have been like, get me out of here. I don't want to deal with this. I get it. So how did that, and then you came back.
Yeah, I came back.
And so you just buried it.
Oh, I buried it, man. I did my job. I was a damn good, I felt like a damn good soldier. Dealing with all that stuff, I didn't let it weigh me down. I took care of my individual soldiers in the best way I could.
But inside, it's slowly eating.
Oh, yeah.
That's a ticking time bomb.
It was. 100% was.
Damn, man. I am sorry to hear that.
Oh, it gets better.
Well, let's get into that.
Yeah. I had, I never was a person to think about suicide in that way, especially now when I think about it and reflect. I had two of my closest friends, and these were my first roommate. You remember your first roommate in the Army?
I was just with him last week.
Yeah, he killed himself, right?
Aye.
Well, I guess he shouldn't say
over there, or
I shouldn't say killed himself. He was in an incident where, he lost his life. Right?
How?
He got hit by an 18-wheeler, and I'm pretty sure it had to deal with his lifestyle, with the way he was living, and
Okay.
always foot to the gas, and he ended up passing away, and that was this collection, this different types of layers of just loss.
For sure.
You
This
know,
is
I
all
did-
during a deployment?
Yeah, I'm still in Afghanistan. And
So you lost your son, your wife trying to kill herself, you
Yeah.
lost your best friend.
Yeah.
You said 2 friends?
Yeah, and within 2 months, my other close friend, he passed away too. Just on
All on one deployment.
Oh yeah.
And your unit's like, well, you're here.
They're like, I'm sure it could be, summed up as, well, everybody deals with loss, right? Come on.
I feel like your son or your wife alone would have been enough to been like, hey, go take care of your shit.
Yeah. Well, hey.
So now you're burying at this point.
Yeah.
And now you've lit the fuse.
But it doesn't. It got even worse whenever my father passed away. And
All on the same deployment?
all in the same deployment.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
And that still wasn't enough to go home.
No. And we were about 3 months out. And a lot of this time I spent, I would love to say it was a full dramatic deployment. And really, for me, it was just straight and utter personal chaos.
You were living in hell.
Yeah. And I was just going right back into hell.
And you're going out on missions every day and just, were you thinking about it or did you bottle it away?
Most of the time I bottled up. I was good at compartmentalizing a
For
good
sure.
chunk of that, just because it's not about me at that point. It's about the individuals around me. And I know it sounds like super hoorah, whatever, but and
That's
really
that's what we're trained.
yeah, it was easy to do that.
Mhm.
Again, I've had that kind of, it was easy for me to do that at 16. If I could walk away from my brothers that are dealing with drugs and issues within a family home.
So you were conditioned. You were.
In a weird, fucked up way, yes. Yeah.
Damn, dude. How do you process this? Or did you wait until you got home? Did you start processing it there? It has to, I feel like a situation like losing a father, losing 2 best friends, losing your son, and your wife trying to kill herself all in one deployment. It's going to hit you sooner or later.
Yeah, it did.
When you were there or backstage?
Whenever I got back, I had so much hate. I had
That's what it turns to every time.
much hate in my heart.
Did you turn to alcohol or anything?
Oh, I did, man. I believed in it. It was just like
Just dove in, huh?
Yeah, I dove in. I partied hard. I didn't care about my marriage. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about who. To me, I was the victim. To me, I didn't get my way. So screw everything else.
And so when you have that much hate on your heart, I feel like why has become the punching bag at that point.
Yeah.
That's the direction we go.
It is. And that's what happened. I got back from Germany after that deployment. I thought I was like, yeah, I just want to get back to the States. I knew that. But in no way, shape, or form did I ever look for help. I didn't ask for it because I thought it was taken away from me. You take away two of my best friends, you take away my father. I was, the foundation of what I could at least try to recover from. And I was way too macho to ever go and ask for help for therapy. And we didn't even get to the other part of where I was about to be chaptered out of the military.
While you're overseas or here?
I was overseas.
Oh my. All right.
Yeah, man. You might need a water break.
Yeah, take a sip. You need to use the restroom or anything? I don't mean to laugh, but. Okay, so let's recap this. You just lost pretty much everybody in your life.
Yeah.
What did you do at this point?
Getting back,
No, before when you got in trouble. You said you got an Article 15.
Oh, I was going to receive a field grade Article 15, 100%.
That's a big deal.
I missed my flight coming back after my father. I had to literally bury my father, and I am now going back to St. Louis to get on my flight back to Afghanistan. I missed my flight and emailed my S1 clerk, like, hey, I missed my flight. I'm sorry. I will be on the next flight moving out.
And they try to get you for UA, or what do you guys call it? Unauthorized?
Yeah, I mean, basically just...
You went AWOL.
Yeah, essentially. That was what they were trying
So
to...
how many... You came back twice?
Yeah.
One for your son.
Yep.
And then how many months later for your father?
That was only about 10 days. I want to say 10 days. Yeah, it was... Yeah, so it was twice overall within that time frame. So...
And you missed your flight, and they try to get you for going AWOL, for burying your father.
Yeah, and this is whenever I'm finally next to my battalion headquarters. And, that issue alone, like, I'm not going to say going AWOL is okay. Obviously, it's not, right? What I did was made a mistake. I made a mistake just because I just wasn't dealing with my problems, right? But I did miss the flight and got back over there, and I was requested to get back immediately by my sergeant major.
Back to Afghan?
Yeah, back to Afghanistan, back to the location where my battalion headquarters was, where my company was.
So you knew something was up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, like, oh, hey, we feel bad for you. I mean, whatever at this point. Like, honestly, I was just so jaded.
Yeah.
After everything that's happened personally within my life, what else could you do? Don't ever ask life that question. I get back and...
God's got a sense of humor.
Sometimes, yeah. I'm there. I get choppered in.
They read you your rights and everything?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that awkward?
It is terrible.
I've had it happen.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
It's not. Sergeant Major's there, and he's telling me about... Really, and this was the defining moment. He's looking at me. He says, Sergeant Ingram, what's your excuse? And I'm just reeling back on all of that has happened, right? And it's not just a poor me thing, but at the same time, I'm not trying to minimize my own issues that was occurring. And he's like, you have 3 seconds to answer.
Does he have any idea what you've gone through?
I don't know.
Doesn't
I'll just
even
give him the
matter for
benefit.
him.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't at this point. I'm just a guy that went AWOL, and I'm a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me that. I respond like, I made a mistake, Sergeant Major. Sorry. He's like, not good enough. He pushed back his little counseling form and said, I'm going to speak on behalf of the commander and our battalion commander, and we're going to get you processed to get a field grade Article 15.
And what's a field grade Article 15?
Then it's just losing rank, right? They're
Any reduction of pay or anything? Or any, what are they, not reduction, I mean, obviously reduction of pay is going to come with reduction of rank, but did they do like, in the Marine Corps, they'll do like a 45-45.
Yeah, it'd be a 45-45.
So no pay for 45. So you're in Afghan and they don't want to pay.
Yeah, I did. It's.
Did they go through with this?
Honestly, no. and we can skip out all the other details, but it came down to a situation where I get back from patrol, and
skip what details? I want the details. This is why we're having this conversation.
The sergeant major is literally, every time I get back from patrol, I would have to go to his office, and he'd be counseling me.
For what?
Basically how big of a piece of shit I am.
Every time?
Every other time, I should say it like that, because it wasn't every single patrol. When I come back from the gate, he would be like, hey, I need Ingram to get to my office. I'm like, who am I? I'm nobody. I'm an E5 infantry guy. Like, there's nothing special about me.
He just had your number pulled.
He did. And, I think about it now, I'm like, okay, whatever, I forgive this dude. But where I was and having to do that, I just was being hazed, right? I was being bullied in a way that, obviously, he's a sergeant major. I'm nobody.
It's harassment in a way. Yeah.
And so I would have to sign these counseling over and over again of what I did wrong. And some of this, like, I didn't feel very, like, I just didn't know. I was just like saying, yep, here's, roger that, move on. And as I'm signing this, and we get to the last one, the colonel gets back from wherever the heck he is, and he requires all of my chain of command, which is all there next to the battalion headquarters. He's like, I want your first sergeant, your commander, I want your PL, your platoon sergeant, and your team leader, your squad leader, like, you name it. He wanted everybody. And so they're all lined up, and we're at the battalion commander's office, and I'm in there, and I, salute and do my reporting. And he's trying to sell me this field grade Article 15. And in my heart, like, I was like, I am going to die on this freaking hill, and I'm not gonna accept this field grade. And I remember the colonel, giving me this speech about, hey, obviously you can gain this back, you can do all this work. And all I could think about is the last year that has messed me up.
Yeah.
Right? And I am now, and I've only done my due diligence, and where I messed up in one area, and this is the treatment I get, that was festering in my heart.
I can understand that.
And for him, it's like, it's an easy acceptance. Sign the paper. Or do you request the trial by court martial?
I was going to ask you get, because I know I have a buddy that he got accused of war crimes, and he ended up shooting a dude guy, he's a sniper. Guy got out, started digging with a shovel, smokes a dude. Other guy jumps out of the car, grabs a shovel, and jumps back in. They take off. So he was just out there with a body, and they tried to get him for that. And he took it all the way up, and he ended up getting it all dropped. But good for him. But I was going to ask if that's the same I'm sure it's all the same in all the military branches.
Yeah.
But so you request a court martial.
Oh yeah.
So for people listening, if you request court martial, that is like going to in front of a grand jury, right? I mean,
essentially,
if anybody ever was like, well, I'm going to request court martial, usually your chain of command panics. These are the I guess a couple options. Your chain of command panics because they know it's not going to hold up and they're just fucking with you. Or if you request court martial and it goes through, you're either going to the brig or you're free.
It's a big risk.
That is a massive risk.
Yeah.
And that's what the path you were going, huh?
I felt right, man. I knew in my
Good
heart
for you.
I was right.
Good.
Like this is not how. I mean, even if you take off this dang uniform, I'm a human being. At the end of the day,
Humans make mistakes,
right? And
so, how did they take it once you were like, well, I'm not accepting it? How was the reaction to that?
oh, it was bad. No, it was bad. I felt great though.
Oh, I
felt
bet you
so
did.
good. I'm just like,
I bet you remember the looks on their faces.
Oh,
huh?
they were pissed. They're like, get the hell out of my office.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Roger that.
And I saluted and I left.
Was that the last of it?
Oh no, my chain of command, like, oh my gosh, you have the biggest balls. I'm talking to my first sergeant commander, like, yeah, man, that was a big decision. I was like, I mean, I felt like you guys were going to support me, but I realized at the end of the day, it's all on me.
Ain't nobody got
and
your back.
and I could never fault them.
Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of the day, it's just that preservation you look at for yourself. And I hate to say you're like selfish, but there are more things that are. I mean, there are things that are just more important.
For sure.
And I had to fight for that for myself.
For sure. So what happened?
More counseling. Dude, I'm telling you, it was just a barrage.
Was he writing all these counselings to try to build a?
Yeah.
But what's he writing them on? Because I feel like if I'm going to counsel a young Marine, like he had to have done something. Is he just making shit up, or is he like, are people reporting to him things you're doing? Like, what are these counselings over?
I think it was just more of the incident. Right?
It was the same incident over and over?
But just and I got tired, honestly. I just got tired. I just signed it.
Yeah.
I got sick of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I didn't realize what was coming after that, right? He was pressing for a chapter. He wanted to chapter me out of the Army.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Was this one of the new guys that took over, one of the guys that got relieved?
No, this is our next level, right? So we have the company level, and then
Yeah.
you got that next level, which is that battalion headquarters. And
Okay.
this is our...
In your company,
yeah.
first sergeant those got relieved, right? Not your battalion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm tracking.
So the sergeant major of our battalion is the one that is doing a lot of face-to-face with me, a lot of this interaction. And I don't know where he was in his life, but he just had no love for Sergeant Ingram.
Got that face.
You got that guy.
You got that face.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I
feel ya.
get it.
I've been there. I'm with you. I'm with you. That's why we can laugh about it. So after a time, I mean, did he eventually give up, or was it like this all the way to your end of your deployment?
He gave up because he had to.
Because you requested court martial?
I requested court martial, and then to proceed with a chapter. I mean, you're really reaching,
For sure.
in a sense, because one, we didn't have the trial. So how does that make sense? How are you going to prosecute? Well, you can't. They don't even have prosecution.
No.
Like nothing. And then you're going to now say he's unfit for the military because of what? On what grounds? And so, but that wasn't the easy answer, right? It was me going through the process of the chapter. So
for
now
sure.
I'm being sent out of the platoon. I am going to get blood work done. I'm doing like all these processes in Afghanistan, right?
They're trying to process you out?
Yeah.
In Afghan?
Yeah. And I'm going to my brigade. It finally got to my brigade psych. And I tell them everything.
Have you talked to your brigade psychologist, right?
Oh, yeah.
Have you talked to them prior to this, or was this your first encounter?
It's my first encounter.
So you walk in,
Oh, yeah.
sit down, and just vomit everything that's happened the last year.
I felt so good just letting it go. Just, yeah, here's what has happened, right? Again, there's two sides of every story, but at that time frame, that was what was happening to me.
How did they take that?
They apologized to me.
Really?
Yeah.
You know they fucked up when they
Yeah.
apologize. When the military apologizes,
Yeah.
it's gone horribly wrong.
And it wasn't just him. It was my brigade sergeant major. So basically that battalion level, obviously one layer above that,
Is your brigade.
Yeah.
So your brigade sergeant major, which is in charge of
Yeah.
thousands of troops.
Yeah.
I don't know how many are in a brigade. There's got to be. I mean, it's a big. Yeah. He came and apologized to you.
I went to his office.
Okay.
And because of the, psychologist recommending, he's like, I want you I'm going to call up the PSD team, the security team. They're going to pick you up. You're going to go to brigade.
Were you tripping at this point? Like
I
shitting
was.
bricks or what?
I mean, at that point, I was like, it's
Just
a loss.
over it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Did you think you were done?
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn,
I was just gonna, I'm riding the wave.
Yeah.
Because I obviously I don't have a decision. I don't have a choice. I'm just told what to do.
So you show up.
Yeah. And I talked to the sergeant major, do my whole reporting, and greet him, and he's like, just what's going on? And same thing that I told the psychologist, everything that has from day one, from losing, Clayton, from watching, my ex-wife, almost take her life on Skype, to losing my two best friends, to then, burying my own father within a year.
To now getting in
To
field
now
grade Article 15.
where I was trying to request a trial by court martial, was not given one, and now I'm being told that I need to be chaptered out of the Army. And he said, I'm sorry.
Your brigade sergeant major.
Yeah. So and he went down the list. He's like, I've never lost a son. I have never lost a father. And my wife has not gone through, issues of that nature. And he apologized to me. He didn't have to.
That's pretty. Like, where do you, I mean, as a soldier, like, where do you go from there?
Chaos.
Pure chaos.
Oh, yeah.
Did things change after that?
I would love to say it was sunshine and rainbows and I won the war.
No.
No. No.
Damn. That's gotta. How does that make you feel? Knowing you did a tour to Iraq, you're now an Afghan 7 months later after getting back roughly, and now you're public enemy number one. After going and losing everything you lost, and like now you're the enemy to this guy.
I was jaded.
For sure.
I had no trust. I sure as heck didn't care about me.
Do you think that's where a lot of the hate came from, knowing that your own units are turning on you? I mean, that's got to feel pretty lonely.
Yeah, and that's what sucks. I just didn't deal with the problem at hand. You know, I let that fester. I didn't, and I would love to say there was coaching and YouTube would help and getting my mantra and getting that fixed, but it wasn't that. It wasn't that easy. I was just jaded, and I didn't. Yeah, the trust was lost.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you don't have your unit backing you, what do you have over there?
Yeah.
What do you have anywhere?
Yeah.
Damn, dude. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah, right?
I'm here today.
Fucking A. That's
I'm here today.
That's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
So once you get back, I mean, how much time did you have left before you guys were ripping to come home?
2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which could be a long. I mean, that could be a long time over there, especially if they're just fucking with you. But so you're counting down the days. How is your wife at this time?
She was more stable.
Okay.
Having conversations and there was excitement, right, of getting back, and obviously internally I'm not back. I'm not back. I am still stuck in the last year, and it was painful getting back to the States, even though I had a beautiful, because and then what I forgot to go over was that I had a daughter, my oldest, Amelia was born.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back in a very unfit shape mentally.
Okay. Rightfully so, I could imagine.
And this one's a tough one, but I had a drunken incident. It was a domestic violence call. And I got back. We had an argument. It's my daughter's first birthday. And I remember coming back from a training event, and I could not control anything. I mean, I could have, I guess, but where I lost everything I was thinking, and then I put that kind of, you know, the situations that happened before, and I put that on my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to jail.
While you were still in?
Yeah.
So now you gave your command some fuel.
I PCS'd at this time.
Okay.
I ended up going back to Fort Lewis.
Okay.
Okay. Because I requested that, and they finally accepted it. And, you know, within that time frame of 2013, I was in jail. I was in, I forgot what county it is. I mean, I was there for 30 days.
No shit.
Yeah. While in the military. It's not great. It's what happened. It's part of me.
Makes us who we are, right?
Yeah. We're going in deep.
We are. Damn, dude, you had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
That was a...
Well, this is after, right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is, there's still more
For sure.
that's involved in that, but yeah.
So you do 30 days. I mean, that's where it goes back to bottling shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's our problem as men, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
We're just too stubborn and fucking retarded to just talk to somebody and ask for help. I mean, we'll never change. I mean, it's just, especially guys like us, it's how we're wired.
Yeah.
Head down and continue the mission, right? Until we mature and get older. And then now it's, I feel like, at least for me, I feel it coming.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, right? So you get out of jail after how was the jail for 30 days? Okay, let's talk about
we can talk about it. It's fine. I opened that can of worms.
How was going to jail for 30 days
I was hungry.
as an active duty soldier?
Oh, dude, it was embarrassing. I mean, honestly, it's embarrassing.
Did everybody know
Oh, yeah.
that you were in the military? This wasn't a this
with I was going to say within my unit. Yeah, 100% everybody knew.
Yeah, out in town. I mean, in jail. I mean, did they know you? Did the guards, were the COs cool with you because you're just in there with them?
Yeah, it's like basic training. You're just a number. Like,
Yeah.
move it along. When I got booked and I'm in there and I was still pretty messed up, right, from the alcohol, and I get into the drunk tank, and that was the first time I ever thought about suicide.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, why not? You create this lifestyle and you have nothing else to kind of vent your issues with, and here you are in a cold seat with the orange jumpsuit on. Why not?
Where does life go from there?
Yeah.
You didn't attempt, you were just thinking about it?
Oh, I was thinking about it.
Which is a scary thought.
Yeah.
How would you want to do it?
Probably just either one cutting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like something that I've had issues with just looking at a blade or even just a gun, but obviously don't have the accessibility to that. But that was a way I thought about it, right? As I'm sitting there on this cold bleacher, with other inmates or those that will be moved into wherever they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I got sent into the hole for about 5 days.
Really?
Yeah.
All by yourself?
All by myself.
How was that? 5 days of solitaire. I mean, that can make you come to Jesus real quick or not.
Oh, yeah. It was dark and cold. I could tell you that. I could. And I wasn't hungry. I don't know how to explain that. You're just not hungry. I'm getting off of, the alcohol and getting back to reality, and you're just in a place where you're alone.
Very much.
Yeah.
Where's your wife at this point?
Back at the apartment.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to figure out
what's next.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking, am I going to be stuck in solitary for the entire time?
Mm-hmm.
Is it always going to be this dark? And I just couldn't eat, man. Just couldn't eat.
So you lost a lot of weight in 30 days in there, huh?
That, and I finally got moved to General Pop and was in there hanging around.
How was that dealing with those guys?
I actually was surprised how much religion is in there.
Really?
But I know you would think, like, oh, duh, it's jail. Like, why wouldn't you assume that everybody's asking for their get out of jail card, right? Why not? It's a great place for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was a big reintroduction back into my life.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of time to reflect.
I mean, yeah, it's enough time where you don't have the distractions of life, just keeping you entertained.
Mm-hmm.
You're there and you got to sit in it. You got to figure that out.
Did that help you think, those 30 days? I mean, or were you still pretty bottled, or did you have a lot of time to kind of reflect on life at that point? I mean, obviously you did, but I mean, did you come out better, or did you get right back into the swing of things of where you were?
I mean, in a sense, I got better.
Okay.
I was more resilient.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, there was that confidence back into who I was, and just knowing that I could trust myself.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a great road as soon as I got out of jail. I still had issues with dealing with alcohol, right, and how my relationship would look like with that, as I'm still in, and I would love to say that I was there, going to counseling every single week and taking care of myself, but it just wasn't it.
Yeah. How was your relationship with your wife? Was it done at that point?
It was done.
Okay.
Yeah. It was done.
Decisions, huh?
Yeah. I mean, you make your bed, you got to lay in it.
For sure. So with the military and getting in all this trouble,
Yeah.
were now they trying to separate you, or was this
Believe it or not, no.
you just did your 30 days and went back to work?
I did my 30 days, and yeah, and if you look at it, yeah. But however, there was a conversation between her, and my commander, my first sergeant, my company commander and company first sergeant, with why. You know, why would somebody, because everybody like, oh yeah, Chris? Like, no way. Man, this is such a gentle guy. He's such a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's this, he's that. Like, there's no way he would do that. Oh, this was happening? You know, these things that are, I knew were, I mean, maybe I was just populating those questions in my head, but she answered them.
Mm-hmm.
She answered them like, yeah, you don't understand this about him. These are the things that happen, these events, and
Because this is a new unit. They don't know you.
yeah, yeah,
So then they find all this out.
yeah.
And they have a little
Yeah,
compassion for you.
a little bit, right? And my first sergeant, and he truly saved my life.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
He brought me in after my PL, my platoon leader brought me in out of jail. Excuse me. And
How was that? It's got to be awkward.
I still talk to him today.
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
good.
No, I actually still talk to a lot of the
All right.
leadership there now, and
That's good.
but they were all there for me.
Yeah.
Talking about and not just judging me like, oh yeah, good job, Mr. Domestic Violence guy. You know, they brought me in and said, we're here to help you. And that finally,
Good.
like that, you know, coming from,
That's all you needed to hear.
yeah. And I didn't get the field grade that I did deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Flat out, I deserved it. I could have said that I deserved to be chaptered, right? After that issue. But where my first sergeant saved my life, he showed me compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I will take care of you in the sense of providing you actual, you know, leadership in the sense of you know, being someone to provide an open door, understand where you are in your life. And maybe he went too far. Who knows?
Yeah.
So many people question that kind of leadership. Like, why would you even dare spend your time with somebody that's a deviant and let alone he says he's a soldier? Why does he deserve that?
Because he saw that it was a cry for help. You know, he probably needed it. That's a good leader. I feel like that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's someone that's able to listen, diagnose the problems, and see that, you know, there's deeper shit going on, especially that they didn't know you.
Yeah.
So they had not a clean slate, but you know, to build that picture, then obviously the wife, you're, you know, filling them in on it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a great leader, because he could have just articled you out and kicked you out, and you'd either be a bum or kill yourself or become an alcoholic or whatever. I mean, the options were not in your favor if they would have just kicked you out.
Yeah.
You know, so he did the right thing.
No, I think he did. Right. He gave me a option to be better,
Mm-hmm.
and then also show me what that means.
Yeah.
You know, I became more integrated with the company. I lost everything, even though I was a sergeant at the time. I didn't have leadership. I wasn't able to be in a leadership position. I just had to stand in the background, which is fair.
Yeah.
Like, that's more than ever. I mean, I was thinking I was going to work in the crab boats out in Alaska at that point. For real.
You're already planning your exit.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
I mean, I was like, okay. And again, that comes back to that whole, you know, 16-year-old me got to plan that exit strategy and, you know, when's the next Greyhound bus ticket that I need to take?
Oh, shit.
Because I understand.
So you're rooted right back to your
A lot of that can.
childhood days, huh? Yeah. That's fascinating. So you didn't lose rank. They didn't take your pay. They just kind of demoted you as far as leadership position. So
Yeah.
I take that all day.
Yeah.
I would just shut up and been like, Roger that.
And it did. I had to perform.
Yeah. How long did that go on for?
About a year. And I ended up moving into a different company,
Okay.
our sister company, right next door. And there, after looking back of what the opportunity was that I was given, I was like, man, I'm going to go to Ranger School.
Really? Out of all things, you're going to be a ranger.
No, I wouldn't say be a ranger, but
Go to ranger school, yeah.
ranger qualified.
Yeah,
You
I
get in the
I
weeds
get
of
it.
things,
I
and
get
people
it.
are like, "Oh no, you're not really one." I'm like, I don't
That's
really
a
care.
hilarious. That's a hilarious thing that I never knew existed.
Oh yeah, it's a thing.
Oh, he's just a tabber. I'm like, what the hell's a tabber? Oh, he went to ranger school, but he's not a real ranger. I'm like, what makes somebody a real ranger over versus being a non-real ranger? Well, he's a tabber. What the fuck is a tabber? Like that is hilarious about the ranger community. Is that if you, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you haven't deployed or as a ranger, you're not a ranger, but you wear a ranger tabs. You're just a
I don't know, man.
weird community. So, anyways, so you go to ranger school.
Oh yeah, I went there. I was I loved just taking a beating. I failed twice, man. Hard.
Really?
Oh yeah.
How?
I didn't just like go straight through. I mean, physical fitness. I just wasn't ready. I was ready mentally, but I didn't understand what it really took. In
Okay.
that. And so whenever I'm there, like day one, this is great. And I just didn't pass. Like I was a terrible runner, And at that point, I understood I needed to build a path, right? I was like, well, duh. Just go work out, dude.
It's that easy, right?
It's that easy.
It's that easy. I'm just gonna go for a run every day.
I would love to say that I went to ranger school and I conquered it and it was fantastic. Nah.
So you got how many? You made it the first day. You said the first time.
Yeah, it was the first day, and then I'm like bald. I have to go back. It's so embarrassing, man. Everybody's like, "Oh, dude, what happened? Did you fail push-ups?"
The first day.
You go back to your unit.
You're one of those guys.
Oh,
you hear
yeah.
about. You're one of
Yeah.
all these dudes quit the first day of ranger school.
Yeah,
All
and I
right.
got dropped, and I don't care. I laugh at it now.
Yeah, who gives a
then, but it's
shit?
so shameful. You're just going back so bald.
Oh man, that's rough, huh?
Yeah, they're like, hey, we know. Like, all right, whatever.
And then you went back again.
I went back again. Didn't pass.
What'd you have?
Patrols got me.
How?
Whenever you're out in the field and you're in a leadership position and you're trying to understand the dynamics of controlling, I wouldn't say controlling, but like leveraging
Okay.
different leaders to do their job, it's very difficult, right? And like any boss can understand, like it just sucks. Sometimes you got to be the one that stands back and then says something, or is the one who's very direct. I was not ready for that. And you would think that, oh, you're a team leader, why wouldn't you be able to do that?
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to talk to individuals in that way, or like, and it was very frustrating for me because I was more into my what didn't happen for me in that time frame, in that second time, because I was still kind of reeling from, all the mishaps of 2012. So my mind's back there. Mm-hmm. But as I'm going through the school and something bad goes on, then I go back to, oh, well, this is why, and it becomes a very, very, very easy way to be a victim or just like not have responsibility because then I'm not thinking about the mission. I'm thinking more about my problems. Mm-hmm. And guess what? We're not sleeping. We only have one meal a day. And it's just too easy just to be like, well, screw it.
What's Rangers? I mean, how far? So then the third time you made it.
Yep.
What's Ranger School like? What was your most hated part of Ranger School?
I would say it's like jail, just because I could reference it to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the worst parts is just not being able to sleep and not being able to eat. When you're trying to have a conversation with individuals and you just have to, you just got to be like, yeah, you're right. You want to ride this wave, brother? Let's go. Right. And without, and it's such that kind of political play on things, you have to understand where you fall in place.
Okay.
What are your skills as, a negotiator in a sense?
Okay.
Because everybody can perform there. They're not there voluntarily because they, just suck.
Yeah.
Right. They're there and they can physically handle it, but it's this dynamic of me and you talking together to accomplish one thing. That part, that's where it gets super, super difficult.
And you're dealing with a bunch of alpha dudes.
Everybody.
I can see that being rough.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part about Ranger School?
Oh, probably the sky.
The sky?
the view.
Yeah.
I never was able to lay on my back.
Yeah.
Hey, it's the simple things. And I'll
Right?
tell you, I never took that for granted when I was able to lay on my back and be like, damn, this sucks.
It's that rough, huh?
You know, yes and no. It could be physically rough because you're going to I guess I should say, two different types of terrain.
Okay.
You're going out in the swamps of Florida to, you're out there in the Appalachian Mountains. You're, like I said, you only eat once a day, while you're out there in the field.
Yeah.
Right. And that meal can maybe consist of possibly over 2,000 calories.
If you're lucky.
And if you're lucky, right? Depending on the MRE. I mean,
Yeah.
you get to know which MRE is the
Oh,
most fulfilling one.
100%. You know what
Yeah.
batch number on the box
Oh, yeah.
has each one? Oh, you learn that shit real quick.
Oh yeah. As we're, you're figuring out how to then conversate with other individuals to understand your own leadership at that time. Then you're also carrying, a pack
Yeah.
that is just egregious. Sometimes and I would love to say they were all 35 pounds, man, but have you ever carried something just your sleeping sack wet?
Oh, for
And
sure.
then, obviously that may be 15. Then it becomes 25.
Uh-huh.
And then your weapon, whatever it is, because everybody has these transitions of equipment. And then it just can move from 65 to 95 real quick. And
Oh,
you're like,
for
there's no
sure.
way. But I'm telling you, there is a
For
way.
sure, especially if everything's wet. You
Yeah.
can double it, the weight of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. But
So-
you understand that, though.
Oh, yeah, very quick. I mean, even in the most basic things that you're carrying, it's like, God damn, what's in here?
Yeah.
How much farther do we have?
Yeah, it's just my boots and like two uniforms. What the heck? Like, this sucks.
Yeah. Oh, I get it for sure. So after Ranger school, I mean, now you're a Ranger, tabber.
Right, yeah, tabber.
You're a tabber.
Yeah, that's fine.
For all my Ranger buddies, they're gonna. You should have called him a tabber. You're real. So hilarious. I worked for a Ranger,
Uh-huh.
and this is actually the first time I ever figured out about this. And I had an executive security company, and he was the owner of it that I started it with. And then he would address himself as Ranger, and his last Ranger Steiner. Oh, I'm Ranger Steiner. So I was like, yeah, this guy, my partner, he's a Ranger. He's old, Vietnam guy. Da 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 da. And then I hired a Ranger, and they're like, this motherfucker's a tabber. He's not a real Ranger. I'm like, what do you mean he's not a real? And so that's where that came from. And then he had donated so much to the Ranger battalions or the Ranger Foundation or some. They gave him an honorary, and it was an honorary tab.
Nice.
It wasn't even though he didn't even go through fucking Ranger school. Come to find out. So yeah, that's when I got my first taste of the difference between tabbers and Rangers, and I was like, whatever. You all are just a glorified Marine Corps grunt, anyway. So.
Man. Shots fired.
You guys are just grunts with way cooler gear. That's
Not me. That's what's great about a tabber.
you don't have to claim it.
No, you're not in regiment, and obviously there's that selection process they go through, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah,
right? And I didn't go
yeah.
through that. I just went to Ranger school.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm just a tabber.
I get it. I don't give a fuck. That's
Same.
It's the military. Everybody's got to flex over something. So once all that was done, how long were you in until you got out?
I ended up becoming an RI.
What's an RI?
So a Ranger instructor.
Okay.
And I got out there in Florida. I was out there for 2 years.
What were you instructing?
Basically swamps. Oh, not swamps. Sorry. It's covert operations, whether it's in the harsher conditions within the swamps, right?
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds miserable.
It was miserable. It was very miserable because it's wintertime, and miserable in a fun way because you get to see all these students. Right now, I'm not the one that's
you're the
bald
instructor.
and skinny and shriveled up. Like now, I'm out there able to help move them along, like herding cats, essentially out there in the swamps of Florida, and you're just teaching them different tactics. I would never say it's sexy SEAL team kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just very basic
yeah.
tactics. And the stories from the swamps, man, are
You got any
are
good
so
stories?
legit. Just because
Let me hear your. What is if you could think of one of those moments where you were like, "Oh, that poor son of a bitch!" Like,
Oh, dude,
from
there's so many.
Because I feel like the swamps, even though it's Florida, you have that cold humidity, and that's the shit that cuts to your bones.
Yeah.
And you can get cold real fast anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's two instances or two events I remember, and then there's of so many, and the first one I remember, my buddy Muse he's a pilot now. We were walking through swamps. It's 2 a.m. and they don't wear nods or anything, and we're just walking straight through this stuff, and then we get to basically to the end of our movement. And usually all three of us, because there's three walkers, and we're talking to each other about, hey, are they good? Like, do you think they can handle this? And obviously they don't hear this dialogue, but we're just talking to each other like, I don't know, they suck. Like, yeah, where you were, I don't know if you ever had that experience. You're like, man, I don't know if they're gonna make it. Like, maybe we just turn white light on and we just get them out there, and then they get them to the objective, because this is pretty terrible. And they're not working well together.
What makes it terrible? Just the conditions? I mean,
it's there's so much that goes into that, but usually it's just the attitude.
Okay.
Right? If you sense the attitude of a platoon, and they're just bickering, and you're like, okay, like, you guys can do whatever you need to, but at a certain point we got to cut that off. And who's going to do that? And if there is no kind of alignment within this platoon, then heck, man, I know there's going to be straight and utter chaos in all of it, and we're going to get lost. We're gonna start fighting within, and we're never going to get our mission done.
For sure.
And that's where, as our eyes, it would be a move where, like, hey, we're going to sit you down. We're going to get you to where you need to go. And
so you're there to just keep controlled chaos in a way.
Yeah, and we have to grade them as well, right?
So these guys are just falling apart?
They were falling apart, and we finally get moving out of the swamps, and it was forever. We're we're talking about 600 meters of swamp, which is still pretty tough to navigate, right? Because they still have to do what we call through the dark.
Okay, yeah.
This is all like 2 a.m.
Okay. All right.
And they maybe slept maybe 1 or 2 hours. Okay. They haven't eaten yet.
Yeah.
So they're just human beings. They're just like, I don't know how to, it is a weird animal that a Ranger student is. And I'm sure like a Marine Corps grunt just out there in the field, you just become an animal. And as we're getting out to our basically our place out of the swamps and getting to the objective, my buddy was absolutely pissed. He is he just doesn't deal with nonsense. And there was a lot of like, ooh, boo-hoo, poor me. And I remember him just yelling in the background, and I'm in my position because I'm trying to stay in the middle of the formation.
Yeah.
And then I go up front, and we're about to the objective. I mean, it's a straight, long hill. And I'm like, they are going to be sucking to get up this hill to get to the objective. Well, not to the objective alone, but before they do their little security halt.
Okay.
And I see this red lens flashlight, and you see the herd of people. And in the base of this hill, I just see the shadow of my buddy and his hands just flailing in the air. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, oh, man, this is not going to be good. And I just hear him yelling from the background, and he's just going at it with this because he was the student was a leadership position. He was a platoon sergeant. My buddy was grading him, and I'm pretty sure this kid knew his grade. Like he was like, I ain't passing this, because accountability is the biggest thing.
For sure.
And get up there to the top of the hill, and I see Justin out there, and he's still going at him, and he is in front of the student, and I see the student come up, and it was probably the most obnoxious thing, from boots, like he had his rucksack, just everything was just outside of it.
Okay.
I'm like, how did that happen? Like, I mean, I get we just went through the swamps, but what happened to this kid? I'm thinking, I don't think that, my buddy would do anything to him like that, but he's just coming in, and I just see him, and he's swaying back and forth. He's falling asleep. He's falling asleep, even after he was getting chewed out. He was getting chewed out the entire way. This kid just had, his eyes are almost closed, and then it was just the shadow. What made it more impactful is like I'm just seeing this kid with
wobbly
his boots
shadow,
and just trying to walk with his M4 as he's trying to get up there, and he's the platoon sergeant. And I couldn't stop. Like, and I honestly had to pull away.
Yeah.
I had to pull away because the other RIs we had to huddle a little bit, and we're just like, what the heck is happening to this guy? He's like, yeah. And my buddy Justin was just like, hey, he's just giving us a lowdown of his interaction. Like, well, we saw it, and obviously this is what is occurring now. I think he just kind of gave up.
No shit.
But that's a part of that kind of realization as a student, like, how much are you willing to take? Can you come back from it? And maybe that was more of an obnoxious example, but he didn't make it through that one.
No.
Yeah, no, not really.
So you dropped immediately if you don't make it?
No, you're not technically dropped immediately. And there's times where you can actually go back and do another patrol in a leadership position.
Yeah.
Which is great, right? If they have another option to do that, then they're given that. Typically, not all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after you finish that up, is that are you close to EAS now, or are you looking to career it at this point?
I was full career. I knew after I passed through Ranger School and went to some other schools there, I was like, man, I want to be at least a first sergeant one day.
Okay.
At that point, I was looking at Sergeant First Class, and I got promoted right at the tail end of my time out there as a Ranger instructor.
So what made you decide to get out?
I didn't decide that. I guess it was I did decide on it later in the back end, but I had a heart condition.
Did you know this the whole entire time, or is this something
No.
that came up in the military?
It was something that came up.
They didn't catch it at MEPS?
No, they didn't catch it at MEPS.
Was this developed during then, or?
It was actually after my COVID shot, and I went to go get a physical so I can go to school, and I go to our medical station and talk to the PA.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I just want to get a physical so I can go to school. All right, cool. And I get my orders right to go to the specific places to go get checked out, and I go to the cardiology and get my EKG. They're like, oh, this is really weird. I'm like, okay. I've been told that before, and this cardiologist is like, well, we want to dive more into it. And so he did.
That's kind of, you got to be like, oh, for what?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. What are you talking about? Like, I'm out there. Physical fitness in that sense was still a big part of my life, right? And I get orders to get my CAT scan done, right, for my heart, and they come back like, wow, you have, aortic root dilation.
What the hell's that?
Basically, the two pumps that go to your heart.
Okay.
My aortic root in itself is hardening to where blood cannot go into that heart, and it immediately will just like harden itself to where it'll just close off eventually.
Did you just have a heart attack or what?
And it just will stop pumping blood into the heart, and I would die instantly.
Is there a way to fix it?
Yeah. It's something that's, you can fix it.
So you didn't have any of these problems till you got the COVID shot?
I'd hate to be somebody with like a conspiracy theory, but for me, I thought it was just way too easy.
Make it make sense.
And in the time frame of where, the Army was with COVID vaccinations, and I was like, I don't know if I'm just prey to this, and I want to stay in. I want to be here. Like, can we find a resolution to where I'm not having to get out of the military? And I was just only given options of like, no, you need a chapter out. Like, what the heck?
Damn, they forced you out.
Yeah.
So they forced you to get the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come down with this heart condition.
Yeah.
Then they forced you out.
Yeah.
God bless the military.
Yeah, man. My brigade surgeon, she fought on that hill to make sure that I was not going to deploy or anything. I couldn't do my job.
How did that make you feel after dealing with all of this bullshit up until this point, and then now this is what's doing you in?
That
had to have been a blow.
Just even more frustrated. I became that same individual in 2012, and in a way, not as harsh as that. Right? It was, I felt jaded. I felt very
abandoned, probably.
Yeah. Oh, very, very much so. And I was like, why? I'm the one you want, right? I'm special. I did Ranger School. I did what you asked me to do.
And this is a favor.
Yeah.
You had quite the career. Wild, man. And so then you just started your med board.
I did.
When did you get out?
December of 2022.
You're fresh.
Yeah.
Fresh. So what are you doing now?
So I work for Gray Group.
Which is what?
They manufacture plate carriers. They draw, I mean, you can kind of blur the lines of civil defense, but right now there's a lot of growth in our company.
Cool.
And trying to figure out where we want to go with other, kind of associating ourselves with other companies to create this partnership.
Yeah.
So
How do you like it?
I like it just because I work with some really cool people.
That's cool.
And that environment is what I needed, because I'll tell you, the first year of getting out was really, really, was nasty.
How? Just alone?
Alone. Gone through a second divorce. And then I ended up going into, inpatient, because I just could not transition well. I did not transition well out of, that career.
What do you mean inpatient? Why'd you end up there?
An incident where, I wanted to take my life. I was going on medication for the first time in my life, and I was on Prozac, and I became so comfortable with this thought, an intrusive thought, where I can look at a gun and I can be like, it's okay.
It's okay to
That's
what?
okay to just go ahead and pull the trigger on that. Just put it in my mouth and blow my brains away.
That became a normal thought?
That became a normal thought for me.
That's scary.
Yeah.
And this is, you want to say this was med related?
I don't know if it's med
Or was
related.
it just everything that compiled onto you?
Yeah, everything. Everything that was happening or not happening, right? Was happening was like, I'm out. Two, not happening is my now, relationship that was just going, under, and a lack of purpose, a lack of confidence, a lack of strength.
Mm-hmm.
There was no, and support structure's gone. I have barely trust in my own family.
Yeah. So
And
you have nobody.
Yeah.
What stopped you? I mean, how close did you get, if you don't mind me asking?
I was in the bathroom, and I just sat down, and I was ready to just take my life away, and I was okay with that.
What
And
stopped you?
What stopped me was, honestly, my girlfriend right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah.
How did she stop you? Did she walk in on you?
She called the cops.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
do what you got to do with that situation.
Mm-hmm. And
You're
I got
probably pissed at the time, though.
No, I
No.
honestly wasn't. I wasn't mad at her. I wasn't mad at her at all.
Good.
I was like, okay. It's like, this is obviously, this is not okay. And I told her about the incidents of where I was with the medication and how I felt, and honestly the intrusiveness of just thinking that's acceptable,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Did you end up in the hospital?
Yeah, I ended up going to one of the inpatient clinics here
Mm-hmm.
for about a week, and I had to reevaluate my life, right? It's just a whole bunch of roller coaster rides from me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good. Now you're on track. How do you feel now?
I feel better.
Good.
In constant therapy, understanding that it's not, it's not perfect. No part of me is perfect.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be. I'm just a regular freaking dude.
We all are.
And I mean, a pretty tragic background, but I what I don't want to slip away is the fact that I did overcome that, and I still can.
Good. Because we're going on a rafting trip. You're gonna meet a bunch of cool dudes.
All right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
So let's talk, man. But at least you're open enough to be able to accept like where you were at. Are you still on the meds?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Did
still on
they
medication.
did they get you? Did they get it dialed, or did you? I feel, and the only reason I ask is I've worked with guys that have gone through some pretty dark times, and they related a lot of it to the meds, just piling on obviously all of their situations and their demons that they were battling at the time. and then realizing like either the VA or the military didn't have the right dosage or the right meds, and they lived in their own like prison in their own hell for a long time until they figured that out. I mean, I have had a couple buddies that have gone through some pretty dark times and tried to take their lives, and they related a lot of that to the VA and the meds that they were put on.
Yeah.
So, but once they got it checked and ended up getting a better doctor that was like, hey, we're going to cut this back and we're going to test low dosages and work up until you find that balance, that really helped them a lot. Is that something are you going through the VA for all this, or was this all?
No, I TRICARE. I'm medically retired out.
Okay. Yeah,
and
yeah.
so I have those benefits that I use, and nothing about Boise VA. I honestly think they're great.
They are,
and I've had no issues with them. Where I needed to change that medication was from that instance. I'm accepting something where I'm just like, hey, yeah, my life is not valuable.
Yeah.
I'm ready to take it. Why not?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Absolutely not. And so talking with the professionals, right, that did give me the medication. Trust me, I've never been a person with my background, with my father being someone, never, ever, ever, ever looking at medication as the answer. It's just like you sit up and you kind of, I wouldn't say walk away, but you just get up and walk, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But that mentality, was what really stopped me with just going in and accepting I am at that point in my life where I did need it.
Because if you don't, you only get so far.
Yeah.
Well, good. So as far as work now you got a good environment.
Yeah.
Sounds like you got a pretty good woman that's,
Yes, I do.
I mean, good enough to call the cops and care. I mean, probably at the
yeah,
moment.
we got to love her. And I mean, yeah,
I know.
That's okay.
At the moment, what the hell else do you do?
Yeah.
You're a big ass dude. It's not like she's going to try to fight you.
Yeah.
Try to wrestle a gun at you or anything. So I'm glad she made that decision. And so now you're working with a real good group of dudes. And so, a question.
Yeah.
After everything, and you're not the only vet that's battling demons or gone through a bunch of shit. If you had any advice for any guys that are looking at some pretty dark times, what advice would you give them?
Ooh. My advice is to look at, what plan of action can I go through logically? And I know that sounds really weird, but I never put myself in a position to I always reacted. Everything that I had was just emotionally charged. And if I just would have gave myself the time and space to sit down with my thoughts and then build a whole plan of who and what I could talk to, or I mean, not what, but really who I can talk to. I mean, it's not as simple as that, but that would be my advice, is to and also just give yourself a damn break. Yeah. You're not, look, just because in my story of just all those constant failures, mishaps, whatever you want to call them, they're still going to happen. They're never going to stop.
Yep.
And just stop hurting yourself in the sense of that you aren't good enough, or in the sense of that, your life isn't going the way you want it to be, because there's nothing at the end.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I would hope they would get that message, that it's just, you can get and overcome a lot of these things, and just by giving yourself a little bit of grace.
It's tough,
Yeah.
As men, especially military guys, we're trained to shut up and bottle everything and continue the mission, but you only go so far. I feel one of the biggest battles for us is getting men to talk. And I see these clips of like Dana White and Joe Rogan and shit, and maybe not so much Joe Rogan, but like I saw a clip recently of Dana like, I'll never talk about my feelings. Like, fuck that. I'm a man. That's not what we do. We go to work, we grind. And, like, I look at that and I'm like, God, that's how you end up in situations where you're sitting in your bathroom with a pistol in your mouth.
Yeah. Being vulnerable.
I feel like being vulnerable is a healthy thing when you're able to communicate with somebody, a friend, a wife, a girlfriend. Doesn't matter, I feel like that's where this generation now, we're so torn because we have these, you
got to be a man, but at the same time, like, we can't show weakness. And one of the things that I've definitely learned over the years, especially my wife, goddamn, she's on me. And she calls me out for everything. And it's being able to realize, like, okay, I am being an asshole. I am having a moment in accepting it of who we are, and that, you know, the demons are working themselves back up and coming around again. And if we don't talk about these things and we don't voice them or talk to a friend or get away and clear our heads, you just start adding layers. You can compound layers on layers on layers, and then you have, my wife calls them episodes that trigger us, you know, and then we end up in a hospital, or you end up killing yourself or slitting your wrist or taking a bunch of, whatever it is. It's because we're men and we don't just talk. And the only reason I even say this is, you know, especially when I saw that Dana White clip, it's like, come on one of these trips with a group full of guys and you talk to a vet that literally lost his whole unit. He was the only survivor out of his whole unit. And to listen to that dude talk and to tell us the only way he's gotten through the survivor's guilt of being the only guy to come home was to talk to other veterans. Like, I see those clips and it's like shut the fuck up. Just because you want to bottle it, like, and then that's his message. And then you have this young generation of young men that are looking up to these, you know, influencers talking about, we're men, don't talk about your feelings. You shut up, you grind, that's what we do. That's what our dads did. That's what their dads did, and look how they were treated, you know? It's not good, man. We have to get that shit out of us, or it just becomes cancer.
Yeah.
You know? It sucks, but at least there's so many good programs now, and that's where you fucked up. You didn't reach out.
You're not wrong, dude. Call it how you see it, man. Spade's a spade,
Spade's
man.
a spade, bro. That's why we're gonna go rafting here in the end of August. So, but I mean, look at now. Like, you're able to talk about it, and that just shows, like, you know, if you're bottling these things and you carry this, and you could only carry the hate for so long, and then once you realize when you get rid of even just a little bit of hate off of your heart, dude, it's the most amazing feeling. It is the most incredible feeling when you can just breathe and you don't have, I don't know if everybody feels the same, like in the past, like it's like weight. And you hear people explain, like, it's like this weight on your where you can take a full breath when you don't want to just fight the world anymore. And that's, I think, the biggest problem with men coming out of the military, especially these combat units and these alpha dudes, is like they're so used to fighting the world. And we feel like that's the same thing, when you just need to check yourself and take a step back and be like, cool, like, I'm not in that world anymore. I'm not in that environment anymore. Why do I act like this? Why do I still carry this? No offense to the military. They don't give a fuck about us. Why do I still have to defend it and act like I'm this or be this because I served? You got to find a way to clear. I'm not saying you, I'm just talking in general. We as men, like, have to find a way to be able to just voice. I don't care who it is, man. You find somebody that can listen to you. Like, that's I think our biggest thing. If it's through church, through friends, through loved ones, whatever it is, man, I think us as a community of veterans, like, we really need to start talking more and getting stories out there and letting people know, like, hey, this is what I've gone through. I mean, I know it's probably pretty hard for you to sit here and, like, talk about losing a son and what your wife was doing. I mean, that's a wild time, but if you're not able to talk about that, it builds and it builds. And I feel like every time we're able to at least voice it to whoever we feel comfortable with, it helps. It, like, releases that hate, the tension, the pressure, and it helps every time. And I've seen a lot of guys just get a lot better just by having somebody listen to them, especially wives. I wish wives would just, I know we're assholes. I know we can be extremely difficult to deal with at times, but I feel like what separates the incredible wives from the rest are the ones that are able to, like, okay, what's going on? Where are we at? You know, and I feel like if a lot more wives, instead of, And I know they can only deal with it for so long. I
Yeah.
mean, you can only be a punching bag for so long.
Absolutely.
I completely understand that, and I'm not saying every wife has to stick around and every situation's different, but for the ones that know their husbands, and when that pressure is building again, or when they're about to be triggered for something again, and they're the ones that step in, and they're almost like that barrier, that roadblock, like, nope, I'm going to deflect it here. Those are the ones that help guys get out of some pretty dark times. And if they don't have that, then look for your friends,
Did you talk to my psychologist this morning or what?
No, my wife, man, she just drills me every goddamn day. That's what I got to live with. My wife should be a psychologist. All the shit I've put her through, that poor woman, but
Yeah.
it's helped, I think another big thing too, and a lot of guys will never admit this, is learning how to cry. I'll be the first to admit it. And I say that shit because this goes back to that Dana White thing about showing weakness. Like, I never cried. I'd fight that. I would just, I'd fight it. And then when my brother died, man, that's when I realized, like, I couldn't fight. I could have literally have fought. I would have burned this world to the ground. I had that much hate at that time, of everything else on top of it. The once I realized, like, dude, you just got to let it, and I'd just sit in the shower. Sit in the shower and let it out. And I would feel so good afterward. And you'd hear these guys like, I don't show weakness. And you see these influencers, you got to feel good from prison to billionaire, and all these dudes. And it's like, you never show weakness. I don't do this. That's for pussies. It's like, you ain't done shit. Shut the fuck up. It's like, if you're going to sit here and say it's not healthy, and I don't care how weak it looks, like I'm getting all sweaty talking about it because I know I'm probably going to get roasted, but I don't care, man. It's saved my life, being able to show weakness like that. I'm not saying all the time you got to walk around town and tell the world about it, but it's every time I bottle it, just adds, man, just adds and adds and adds, and then we have to release that somehow. And instead of violence or anger or taking it out on kids or wives or friends and losing relationships, like, you have to find a way to release it. And for me, it was after that was my come to Jesus moment. And it's not a regular thing for me, but I don't fight it anymore. I'm not like, well, I need to have a cry sesh, like I'm not there. I'm not that dude.
I know, right?
But instead of fighting it, man, and showing emotions, and like, I have no problem with it anymore. And I feel like that has helped me a lot. And I've talked to other vets, and they're the same. They're like, man, I never cried, never saw my dad cry. I don't think I've ever seen my dad cry. Yeah. It's just how we were raised. And so, but now it's like, we've gone through a lot more different things. We carry a lot more different problems, with war and families and death and losing loved ones. And yeah, man, I'm all for it. I'm all for talking. I'm all for communicating. I'm all for, if you have to cry, cry. Like, and that's, I think, would help a lot of guys out instead of that pressure. And I think that's what it comes down to, is finally get enough weight on your shoulders and they can't carry it anymore.
Yeah.
So,
and when they're not able to compartmentalize that, they're going to do what I did.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be a great example of me, which is not the answer.
You don't want to. You're just another statistic. Don't be that 22. So, oh man, I'm really glad you came on and we got to talk and shoot the shit a little bit and sharing your story. I know there's gonna be a lot of people that can relate to this, because there's a lot of points of this episode that, like, just the chain of command. I can relate to all of that. I had such a horrible leadership in my career and for a couple of my gigs, but I really appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing it. I'm glad you're doing good now and working with a good group of guys. I'm excited. I know we got some things planned, and I'm gonna get you on this rafting trip, and you're gonna meet a really good group of guys. And we actually just did a podcast with a gentleman. We call him Cash, and he's a Green Beret, and I think he's got to come on that trip too. And so he's here local, and it'd be good to get you guys connected. So
I just listened to that, and I thought he was
cool.
I would love to meet him.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. I was just talking to him this morning, and I was like, so yeah, I'll get you guys the dates, and we'll get that lined up. But again, man, thank you. If you ever need anything from us, please reach out. And then, as far as if anybody wants any tactical gear, because it's pretty badass gear you guys have. How do we find that? Where do we go for that?
You just go on our website. You'll
Which
find
is
us there. GrayGroupTactical.com.
Cool.
And yeah, just go ahead and get yourself an order, and we'll help you out with that.
Is there any way people can reach out to you? I don't want a phone number, but you got an Instagram,
Yeah.
emails. Well, we can get all that tagged. And the reason I ask this is because I know there's a lot of. You're not the only one. You're not.
Yeah.
You are not the only one, and I hope veterans that do listen to this that have gone through or are going through these times, I mean, maybe they can reach out and you can help. And
I would love that. In fact.
I think we need to start building a better community. I think that's one thing is all these charities in the world, and then we're doing really incredible things. But I think the one thing that we really need to start focusing on is bringing the community together, even if it's just say military branches or experiences, whatever. But no, I feel like a lot of these guys are just lonely.
Yeah.
And so we need to really start doing that. So I want to start getting guys either options to reach out. And I know there's going to be veterans that are going to be like, holy fuck, this guy just told my whole life story.
I mean, I hope not. But I mean, yeah, I
It's
if
reality.
there's something is relatable, I mean, hit me up on Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
GrayGroupTactical.Chris. And then, please, I would love for anyone that is struggling in that, process. I will gladly help.
Yeah. Thanks, dude.
Thank
I appreciate you coming
Appreciate
on,
you,
man, and thanks for sharing your story. It was incredible. I know it's been a rough go for you, but hey, we're past a lot of that shit, and now we're moving forward. So thank you very much, and we're excited for the future. And I'm excited to get you out on the water this next month, and we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna get to meet a bunch of awesome guys.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks,
man.
dude. Appreciate you.
All right.